Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Justice Garrett. Justice Garrett, a teenage girl from Florida, USA, suddenly disappeared after school. As police investigated the case, they discovered the motive and the horrific events surrounding her disappearance. They were increasingly shocked by the brutality of the perpetrator, the most brutal in the history of the county. It had been just 3 weeks since Justice's 16th birthday. That day, she had overslept and woken up later than usual, causing her to miss the school bus. Her mother, Danielle, then 37, was busy getting her 5-year-old daughter ready for kindergarten and couldn't help Justice get to school. Danielle believed Justice could handle herself. Justice was going to return home by the school bus in the evening as usual. But she didn't return home at the scheduled time. Initially, Justice's family wasn't concerned because she had many friends and often stayed late with them after school. However, as time went on and she still hadn't returned, her mother and stepfather began to worry. They assumed she might be spending the night at her best friend's house. Since they needed to wake up early for work, they went to bed without waiting for her. But when morning came, Justice still hadn't returned home. Danielle grew impatient and worried about her daughter's whereabouts. Unable to reach Justice by phone, Danielle decided to contact the police for help. The police took the missing person report seriously and began an investigation. Police checked out places where Justice might have been, as they often see teens staying with friends before returning home. However, Justice's mother sensed something was wrong because Justice had not contacted family, which worried her. Police considered the possibility that Justice might have run away. Danielle said Justice often spent weekends with friends, and she often helped her mother take care of her younger sister and would not disappear without telling anyone. Justice always dealt with her problems instead of running away from them. And she always discussed any difficulties with her mother. Danielle was worried because all Justice's belongings were left at home. She believed something terrible might have happened to her daughter, so she insisted on starting the search right away. Despite the police's reassurances, Danielle's anxiety grew. Her daughter had never hung out with bad friends, and it was unusual for her to run away or avoid problems. Even when she was with friends, she would call her parents to let them know. However, she did not return any calls or texts. She was friendly and sociable, and did not use drugs or alcohol. It seemed completely impossible that she would just run away without telling anyone. Police checked Justice's database and confirmed her mother's story. She had no criminal record and there were no reports of her being in an accident. Police began searching for Justice by interviewing several teenagers, classmates, and acquaintances. Some said they had seen her sleeping in the cemetery, while others said she had moved in with a secret boyfriend. In fact, Justice had no boyfriend and had never been to the cemetery. None of these claims were true. Police interviewed everyone who knew Justice, including her teachers and classmates. They discovered that she had not been to school that morning. A review of surveillance footage along Justice's route and a check of her phone's geolocation showed that she left home around 7:25 a.m. to go to school, but she disappeared about 30 minutes later, on her way to school. What happened to Justice during that time? For days after she went missing, on April 17th, a man called the police. While out jogging, he noticed a strange, unpleasant odor coming from the edge of the trail, which piqued his curiosity and prompted him to head toward the woods. After walking a few meters, the man accidentally discovered a body. He then called 911. The police quickly arrived and discovered a female body that showed signs of severe decomposition. Although there was some minor damage caused by animals and the hot and humid weather, most of the damage was caused by a chemical substance. Forensic experts determined that it was a type of bleach that had been poured on the victim's body, likely to cover up the evidence. The identity of the deceased could not be determined on the spot and laboratory analysis was required. However, the police suspected that this could be Justice, the person everyone was looking for. Police confirmed the identity of the body as Justice after DNA analysis. Her body was found in a wooded area near Delanda, about a 30-minute drive from her home in Sorrento. Her upper body was badly decomposed, exposing her bones. Her lower body was less damaged, suggesting that she had been exposed to fewer chemicals. Although the exact cause of Justice's death could not be determined due to the condition of her body, it appears that she died from strangulation. Evidence showed that her pants had been pulled down to her ankles and her sweater pulled up to her neck, suggesting that a sexual assault had taken place. Unfortunately, bleach destroyed much of the evidence, making it difficult to prove this motive. It was clear that she had suffered multiple blows to the face, as her nose was broken in several places. Police interviewed the jogger who discovered the body and reported it at 9:11 a.m. He provided important information about the incident. The jogger said that on the 16th, while running on the trail where the body was later discovered, he noticed another person in the distance. He believed it was a man based on his build, but he was unable to provide further details because the person ran away when he heard the jogger approaching. This unusual behavior caught the jogger's attention, but he did not go any closer to the area or see the body that day. However, he returned several days later when he noticed a foul odor. The investigation confirmed that the jogger was not involved in the incident. He passed a lie detector test and had an alibi for the day Justice went missing. To gather new information, police carefully reviewed surveillance camera footage along the entire route Justice took, especially at the bus stop where she was supposed to board. Justice's mother initially claimed that her daughter had walked to school by herself. However, police soon discovered that this was not true. In fact, her stepfather, Robert, had offered to drive Justice to school that morning. Police were suspicious of Danielle's lie about how her daughter got to school, so they approached her more cautiously. This time, she changed her story, admitting that Justice had not walked alone. Robert had driven her in his car. She explained that she had lied because Robert's driver's license had been suspended and she feared he would punish her if she told the police the truth. And that Danielle thought her little lie wouldn't get in the way of finding her daughter. Unfortunately, the deception in this case made it difficult for the investigation to piece together what really happened. The police requested the school surveillance camera footage, which covered the parking lot. This is the location where Robert was supposed will drop her down. However, the camera was malfunctioning at the time and no footage was recorded. Therefore, it was impossible to confirm whether Robert dropped Justice off or not. However, multiple witnesses reported that Justice did not come to school and that no one had seen her that day. The only person confirmed to have seen Justice alive was Robert, and only he knew what really happened. The police brought Robert in for questioning. Eventually, he began to talk. On the day of the incident, Robert claimed that he never took Justice to school. Instead, he drove her to a nearby town at her request and dropped her off at the entrance of the town so she could meet a male friend. Robert suspected that this friend might be her secret boyfriend, whom she was dating without her mother's permission. In order to build a better relationship with Justice and gain her trust, Robert decided to comply with her request. However, Robert did not know the name or any details about the friend Justice was meeting. Justice then assured Robert that she could get to school by herself and planned to return by bus, so he felt that everything was fine. He could not wait for her because he had to go to work in the Volos district, and he did not have much time. Unfortunately, Danielle and Robert were unable to provide any useful information. The police then turned to Justice's friends, who all confirmed that she had recently started talking about a guy she met online. He had shown a lot of interest in her and texted her frequently, which she shared with her friends. However, Justice felt uncomfortable with his excessive attention, and her friends believed that Justice would not date him. The police examined the Justice's social media accounts, looking closely at her likes, comments, recent subscriptions, and conversations. They discovered one account that had been in frequent contact with Justice over the past few months and showed various activities related to her. This account belonged to an 18-year-old man whose profile picture featured a muscular young man. He had been flirting with Justice, expressing interest in getting to know her and complimenting her. Despite mentioning that he lived nearby, police were unable to find anyone who looked like him, and none of her friends recognized him. Justice did not respond to his persistent messages, choosing instead to ignore him. However, police believe the social media account is crucial to solving the case. Police then conducted a thorough search of his social media accounts. They discovered a phone number associated with his account, but instead of belonging to an 18-year-old, it was registered to a middle-aged man named Robert Kern, Justice's stepfather. This revelation shocked the police. When they approached Robert again, he, who had initially been cooperative, suddenly changed his attitude and refused to communicate. The police were determined to find answers, especially since Robert had lied, and now all the evidence pointed to him as the prime suspect in Justice's murder. Despite his protests, police arrested Robert Kern. However, social media interactions are not sufficient grounds to charge someone with murder. At the time, Robert was very close to the family, as he had been dating Justice's mother since the previous fall. He often stayed overnight at their home and kept in close contact with the entire family. There was no evidence of inappropriate behavior toward Justice. Robert denied any wrongdoing and dismissed the idea that he had harassed Justice. He suggested that his frequent compliments were meant to encourage Justice, arguing that receiving attention from a man could be a compliment. However, this explanation seems implausible, as Justice ignored his messages and she thought he was weird for discussing him with her friends. The police, looking for evidence against Robert, decided to interview Justice's close friend, Rachel. Rachel explained that their friendship had recently become close, as Justice often stayed overnight at her house. Rachel mentioned that a few months before the tragedy, Justice had stayed so often that it aroused suspicion. It seemed that Justice was trying to avoid going home. Robert had also been staying at Danielle's house quite often in recent months. Could his presence have contributed to Justice's reluctance to go home? Rachel reported that Justice had spent nearly a month at her house in the weeks before her death. She observed that Justice had become increasingly anxious. Previously calm, she now flinched at any accidental touch and implied that she was afraid of Robert, her stepfather. Rachel recalled seeing Robert on the day Justice disappeared. She described him as looking very uneasy, to the point where she actually felt scared. This made her understand why Justice liked to stay at her house every night. Police decided to take a closer look at Robert's background, focusing on his social media interactions and cell phone calls. What they discovered was disturbing. Robert had a significant criminal record, including 2 burglaries dating back to the early 2000s. Recent search history showed that he had looked up drugs that could cause unconsciousness, such as chloroform, and that he had purchased the drug. He also spent a lot of time studying maps, especially the nearby woods, likely in search of a suitable place to hide a body. He also researched methods for disposing of evidence. After learning that bleach had been used on Justice's body, police ran a geolocation check on Robert's cell phone on the day Justice went missing. They discovered that he had not been driving and had not dropped Justice off at a bus stop or school. Instead, Robert went into a wooded area where Justice's body was later discovered. Police reported that Robert's cell phone was not working for about an hour during this time. Initially, Robert claimed that he was on his way to work, but this was false. In fact, he took Justice into the woods, where he attacked, raped, and killed her. Justice was later charged with murder and was held in custody until his trial began. The exact motive behind the crime was never revealed, as Robert did not reveal it until the very end of the trial. The prosecution argued that the crime was murder with the intent to commit rape. Robert chose not to testify in his own defense during the trial, but he never admitted to any wrongdoing. However, the prosecutor's office had enough evidence to charge him with murder. Robert's troubled criminal history was presented during the trial. He was first arrested in May 2019 in New York State on fraud charges and was held in the county jail. It was mentioned that in 1999, he had committed burglary and breaking and entering, which resulted in an 18-month prison sentence. 3 years later, he was arrested again for burglary and served a year in prison. The prosecution later proved that Robert's testimony was completely false. He mentioned that he dropped Justice off near the school early in the morning and that he worked as a carpenter. However, both of these statements were proven to be lies. After being caught lying, Robert tried to create more excuses. But they were all designed to fool the police. They were able to accurately track the movements of both Robert and Justice. They compared the timestamps on Robert's cell phone and the searches on his phone, which showed that he had been planning the crime for a long time. The prosecution argued that Justice had no chance of surviving from the beginning because Robert had intended to kill her. Vegetation from where Justice's body was found in Robert's car, although he claimed he had never been in the area. However, he had in fact been there at least twice after the murder. He returned to the location on April 16 to pour a chemical on the body to destroy evidence of the crime. At that time, he was spotted by a jogger. The prosecutor's office attempted to prove that Robert's actions were sexually motivated, arguing that he had intentionally kidnapped Justice in order to rape and harm her. Robert had been keeping tabs on Justice for a long time, and she tried her best to avoid him, so she was rarely home. Danielle, Justice's mother, was devastated by her daughter's murder. In her testimony, she said that Robert had discouraged her from calling the police immediately after Justice's disappearance, convincing her that Justice was just staying at a friend's house. He also pressured her to lie, claiming that Justice had gone to school by himself. At first, the Danielle did not understand why he made such demands, thinking that he was afraid of the consequences of driving without a license. After reviewing the case documents, the jury reached its decision in just 30 minutes. They found Robert Kern guilty of first-degree murder of Justice Garrett. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus 5 years for attempting to obstruct the investigation. Throughout the trial, he never admitted his guilt and showed no remorse for his actions. Despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he maintained his innocence until the very end. Welcome back, mystery lovers. Today's case is going to keep you on the edge of your seat. The case of Daniel Wozniak. Costa Mesa, California, is located between Los Angeles and San Diego on a coastal plateau overlooking the Pacific Ocean. Despite being an affluent area, it still retains the laid-back atmosphere of a beach town. No one expected this picturesque location to be the site of Julie Kibushi's tragic fate. Sam Har's parents, Stephen and Raquel, were worried when they realized they hadn't heard from him in a while. Sam was scheduled to visit them that weekend, but he never arrived. On May 22, 2010, his parents Stephen and Raquel went to Sam's apartment. When they arrived, they witnessed a horrifying scene. Stephen, in a panic, quickly called 911. During the call, he informed the police that there was a dead woman lying face down in his son's bedroom, her clothes partially torn and blood dripping from her forehead. "Do you know where your son is?" the dispatcher asked. "No, I don't," came the reply. but there was no sign of Sam anywhere. The case shocked the Costa Mesa community, where homicides are extremely rare. When police arrived at the apartment, they found no evidence of a struggle. The apartment was neat and showed no signs of a struggle. The space contained typical bachelor items like empty beer bottles, used cigarettes, and an outdoor grill, all of which were relatively clean and tidy. Until they entered the bedroom. In the bedroom, police found an unused knife on the nightstand and several books, including a fighting manual and another titled The Wonders of Sex. The most alarming discovery, however, was on the bed. It was covered in the victim's blood. The dead woman was lying partly on the bed and partly on the floor, her pants down, exposing her lower body. Police believe she may have been sexually assaulted before her death. She died of 2 gunshot wounds to the head, one to the top of her head. Although there was a knife on the nightstand, it did not appear to have been used. Curiously, she was wearing a crown, and the back of her sweater read, "All yours." Her purse was in the kitchen, and her driver's license identified the victim as 23-year-old Julie Kabushi. Julie was born on Valentine's Day 1987 to Japanese-American parents Jun and Masa Kabushi. She was the third of their 4 children. Her parents often called her "my Valentine girl." From an early age, Julie developed a strong interest in dance and music. Her mother said that Julie started tap dancing at the age of 5, and her passion for the sport continued to grow over the years. According to her friends and family, she was a very cheerful person. Her cheerful and bubbly personality brought laughter to everyone. She radiated positivity and often helped her friends when they were in trouble. While respecting her Japanese heritage, she also pursued a free-spirited, all-American lifestyle. After graduating from the Orange County School of the Arts, Julie pursued fashion design at Orange Coast Community College. There, she formed a close relationship with 26-year-old Sam Har and even tutored him in anthropology. Little did she know that her kindness would eventually lead to her tragic fate. As the police investigated the crime scene, they attempted to discover what happened to this energetic young woman, Julie. The evidence clearly pointed to Sam as her killer. Since she was found in his apartment and he was now missing, the police needed to dig deeper into Sam Har's life. Sam Har was born on May 29, 1983, in Los Angeles, California, to Stephen and Raquel Kalberman. As an only child, he received a lot of affection from his parents. His father was a special education teacher while his mother stayed home. Sam had a close relationship with his parents and visited them often. Sam was large and athletic, and friends described him as a big teddy bear. As a child, he enlisted in the United States Army, serving a tour of duty in both Afghanistan and Germany with the 173rd Airborne Division. After 3 years of service, he was discharged and returned to Southern California to take advantage of the GI Bill and finish college. Sam aimed to finish college and then re-enlist in the Army as an officer. Sam enrolled in Orange Coast Community College there. He became friends with Julie, who was 3 years younger than him. However, after 3 years in the Army, Sam developed PTSD, a common condition among veterans. Police wondered if he had lost control and committed the crime in a moment of intense emotion. When Julie was found dead in Sam's apartment and he was missing, detectives suspected that he had fled the scene after the murder. The situation became more suspicious when they discovered text messages on Julie's phone from Sam. At around 2:45 p.m. on May 21, 2010, Sam texted Julie to say he was going to help a friend and then come to his parents' house. However, just 2 hours later, his text messages changed. He contacted her multiple times, begging her to come over. The urgency in his messages made it clear that something was wrong. Concerned about her friend, Julie agreed to visit him, expressing her willingness to support him as family. Sam's messages showed that he had planned her visit. Furthermore, Sam's car and passport were missing from the apartment, leading the police to suspect that he was trying to evade arrest. With both his passport and car missing, it seemed that Sam would soon be identified as the killer. However, the police would soon discover that the situation was more complicated than it appeared. Back in 2002, when Sam was 18, he was charged with the murder along with 17 others in the stabbing and beating death of 19-year-old Byron Benito in Canyon Country. On January 15, 2002, Sam, who had known Byron since childhood, picked him up and took him to a location behind a mobile home park where a group of suspected gang members attacked and killed Byron. Although Sam was charged with murder, he was eventually acquitted, but this did not ease the police's suspicions of him. Sam's family believes in his innocence, but the police believe they are after the right suspect. Since Sam is trained in the use of firearms, he will be armed. Fearing that they are dealing with a dangerous criminal, the police issue a warrant for Sam's arrest. Meanwhile, Costa Mesa police begin monitoring Sam's cell phone and credit card transactions to find him. They learn that he has made 4 ATM withdrawals since his disappearance. Additionally, his credit card was used at a pizza delivery restaurant in Long Beach, California, just 20 miles from Sam's home. The police hoped to find Sam on surveillance footage, but when the bank provided the ATM recording, they were shocked to see a teenager in a hoodie and baseball cap withdrawing money from Sam's bank account. Neither the police nor Sam's parents were able to identify the teenager. Police believe he may be helping Sam escape or hide. Costa Mesa police are eager to find him. On May 26, 2010, police learned that Sam's credit card had been used at another pizza delivery service and began tracking the delivery driver. After obtaining the delivery address, they rushed to the location, thinking they had finally found Sam's hideout. However, when police raided the home, they did not find Sam, but instead found 17-year-old Wesley Freelich and several of his friends. Despite being suspected, police immediately ruled Wesley out as a suspect, but he still had Sam's credit card on him. Wesley shared a surprising story that police did not expect. He revealed that he had received a credit card with instructions to withdraw cash, but that the card was not given to him by Sam, and he said Daniel Wozniak, a local stage actor Wesley met through community theater, had given him a credit card. Daniel claimed to be a bail bondsman who needed to collect money that Sam owed. While most people might have refused, Wesley saw Daniel as a brother and, not realizing the severity of the situation, agreed to help. In total, $1,900 was withdrawn from the account. Daniel Wozniak's name came to the attention of the police when they discovered an invitation to Daniel's upcoming wedding in Sam's apartment. But who is Daniel really, and what is his relationship to Sam? Did he help Sam escape, or was he involved in the murder? Many questions remain unanswered. Daniel Wozniak, born March 23, 1984, is the youngest of 3 brothers. Because his parents worked long hours, he spent a lot of time with his grandparents after school. Growing up in a wealthy family, Daniel and his family often went on lavish vacations. He was considered a good student at school, getting top grades most of the time. He used pranks, singing, dancing, and magic tricks to attract people's attention. He loved being the center of attention. Realizing that he had a talent for performing on stage, Daniel began acting and singing in musicals in his early 20s. He was quite open-minded about his plans for the future, but was never able to hold down a job for long, forcing him to move from job to job with very low pay. However, he kept his passion for acting and continued to participate in theater. It was in one of these musicals that he met his dream partner, an actress. After a short period of dating, they decided to marry on May 26, 2010. The police found Daniel while he was celebrating his bachelor party in Huntington Beach, California. He was related to Sam Hart because they lived in the same apartment complex. The police suspected that Daniel may have helped Sam escape or hide, or that he was involved in Julie's murder. With an arrest warrant in hand, the police interrupted Daniel's bachelor party. His expression changed when he saw the police, and they took him into custody for questioning. In the interrogation room, Wozniak initially claimed that his only crime was participating in credit card fraud and covering up for Sam. He explained to the police that he and Sam had planned to drain his bank account with Wesley's help and then claimed that he had stolen the credit cards. However, Daniel claimed that before they could carry out their plan, Sam made a shocking confession. He added that after this confession, he dropped Sam off at a local shopping mall and had not seen him since. However, the police believed that he was still covering for Sam and that he had more to do with Julie's murder than he had told them. The police changed their approach by taking a DNA sample from Daniel, which made him appear nervous. As he tried to remain calm, the police sensed that something was wrong. Almost immediately, he began adding more details to his statement. The police asked, "Can you explain what happened to Sam?" Daniel replied, "I told him I needed to move some objects in the theater. I said, 'Lift this up,' and as he bent down, I grabbed the gun. I had never fired a gun before, so I pulled the trigger and shot him." The police realized that Daniel is worried that his DNA might be found at Sam's apartment, despite his attempts to downplay the issue. Under pressure, he continually changes his story. After a brief silence, Daniel says that he knows about Julie's murder and that he helped Sam escape. When the police remind him that they have his DNA, he insists that it does not match anything on Julie's body, insisting that he had nothing to do with the murder. The police expect him to share more information, but he abruptly decides to end the interview. Knowing the seriousness of the situation, the police press him for more information, warning that he will be arrested for accessory to murder if he does not come clean and give them full details. Daniel also has a lot at stake. He has a wedding scheduled in just 48 hours and he does not want to miss it. Under pressure, he began to collapse, causing the situation to change. The police, noticing his distress, rushed into questioning by falsely claiming that they had found his DNA on Julie's body. In reality, it took weeks for the DNA test results to come back, but Daniel did not dispute this claim. Instead, he explained that his DNA was present because he had been right above her. When his fabrications were exposed, he made a startling confession. This alarmed the police because initially only one gunshot wound was found at the crime scene. It was only after an autopsy that a second gunshot wound was discovered. Daniel's confession meant that he had been present when she was killed, making him an accomplice to the murder, allowing the police to formally arrest him. Even though Daniel was in custody, the police still needed to locate Sam, and Daniel remained silent as they searched for clues about Sam. While in prison, Daniel called his fiancée, Rachel Buffett. When Rachel chose freedom over love, she told him that she would speak to the police about the case. Daniel knew that he had to talk to the police before Rachel did. Suddenly, he panicked, desperate to reach a deal with the police that he had refused to do just hours before. But what he told the police this time was beyond their imagination. The story begins on May 21, 2010, when Daniel asks Sam to help him with a task, moving some boxes in the attic of a theater at a local military base. While Sam is busy moving the boxes and his back is turned, Daniel suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots Sam in the head. At first, Sam doesn't know what happened, but when he realizes he's been shot, he begs Daniel for help. Without hesitation, Daniel loads the gun and shoots Sam a second time, killing him on the spot. After killing Sam, Daniel proceeds to send Julie messages from Sam's phone, inviting her to Sam's apartment. Without any remorse, he leaves Sam's body in the attic and spends the night laughing, singing, and dancing, as if he hadn't just taken an innocent life. That night, Daniel returns to the apartment and when Julie arrives, he shoots her twice in the head. He then staged the crime scene to make it appear as if Sam had attacked and killed Julie before fleeing. Daniel was also determined to hide Sam's body. In a desperate and gruesome act, he returned to the loft and cut off Sam's hands and head to conceal his identity. He dumped the body in a nearby park. Despite these horrific actions, Daniel returned to the theater as if nothing had happened. Police later found photos from the film's parties showing him laughing and joking with other members of the crew. The motive for these shocking murders was even more disturbing. It was all about money. Daniel had been struggling financially for a long time and was facing eviction, having been 2 months behind on his rent. He also had no way to pay for the lavish wedding honeymoon he had planned. When Daniel discovers that Sam has $62,000 in savings from his time in the military, he makes the cold-blooded decision to kill 2 innocent people to fund his lavish wedding and vacation. When the police discover the backpack containing the evidence Rachel mentioned to Daniel, it becomes clear just how damaging its contents can be. Daniel's brother, Tim, was told to get rid of the backpack but instead threw it over the fence at their parents' house. The backpack contained a number of incriminating items, including Sam's financial information, passport, bloody clothing, and most importantly, the murder weapon. Daniel's DNA was found on these items, placing him solely responsible for the murders of Julie and Sam. The evidence was overwhelming, including DNA, spent shell casings, and the victim's financial records, everything the prosecutor could possibly need, including the murder weapon itself. On December 16, 2015, after a trial that lasted just 5 days, Daniel Wozniak was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder. On January 11, 2016, after just 1 hour of deliberation, one of the shortest death penalty trials ever, the jury recommended the death penalty for Daniel Wozniak. On September 23, 2016, the judge sentenced him to death. It seemed there was no end to the deception in this case. Years later, police discovered that Daniel's ex-fiancée, Rachel Buffett, not only knew about the murder plots, but also lied to the police. Although she denied all charges, she was arrested and charged with 3 felony counts of being an accessory after the fact, based on allegations that she had repeatedly lied to the police. On September 12, 2018, she was convicted of 2 of those charges, carrying a maximum possible sentence of 44 months. On November 8, 2018, she was sentenced to 32 months in prison and was released from prison in about 2019. Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. The case of Ana Ramirez. Amanda and Ana Ramirez, born on January 8, 1992, in Camden, New Jersey, USA, are identical twins, arriving just minutes apart. From a young age, they were incredibly close, often wearing similar clothes and choosing the same toys. Their relationship was characterized by understanding and genuine emotional, with conflicts between them being rare. Although they were born in the USA, they come from a family that emigrated from Puerto Rico, a large family with the dream of achieving the American dream. Despite facing challenges, their family's unity and love helped them overcome difficulties. Amanda and Ana were seeking a better life in the USA. When they grew up, their family gave birth to another daughter. Of course, Amanda and Ana stood them out because of their identical appearance. From a young age, their parents emphasized the special bond they had since their time in the womb. They slept in the same crib during their first months, which contributed to their close relationship. As they grew older, Amanda and Ana did everything together and acted as a team. They were very close and always stayed by each other's side. Their mother encouraged this bond, hoping Amanda and Ana would always support each other. And indeed, they did. Amanda and Anna took their first steps together, holding hands to keep from falling. The two girls, who grew stronger together, they were inseparable during kindergarten, elementary, and high school. Their bond stayed strong into adulthood, and it seemed like nothing could break this pure sisterly union, which grew stronger each year. Gradually, carefree childhood ended, and adulthood began. Anna had better relationships with man. She was the first of the twins to get married and become a mother. She was described as a loving and dedicated mother who did everything for her kids. At that time, Anna had completed courses and received certification in a field of activity related to helping people. This accentuates her friendly and positive personality. Colleagues and friends admired Anna's kindness, describes her as a friendly and humble beauty. When Anna became a mother, she had to balance her career with her family responsibilities, striving to create a bright future for her daughter. Later, she had 2 more children. Anna still maintains regular contact with her family, especially her beloved twin sister, Amanda. She often comes home to visit her grandparents, mother, brothers, and sisters. Anna and Amanda still keep in regular contact, they exchanging messages and phone calls to share their daily experiences. When Anna had a daughter, Amanda was eager to know all about her niece and frequently inquired about her. Amanda helped Anna a lot, supporting her in taking care of her children and learning the fundamentals of motherhood. Amanda also aspired to have her own family and become a mother, so she paid close attention to every piece of advice Anna offered. Amanda was kind and caring, always ready to assist. Amanda regularly spent time with Anna and her children. During the first few years of her life, Anna's eldest daughter spent a lot of time with both her mother and with her aunt, Amanda. This allowed the aunt, Amanda, to bond with her niece and gain valuable childcare experience. These skills and knowledge later proved useful to her. At that time, Anna was very busy, and it was with Amanda's help that she was able to manage daily tasks. Whenever they had free time, the sisters often spent time together, went for walks, and relaxed on weekends. Anna and Amanda loved parties and could go dancing all night long. In those moments, they were with their close friends. They were always friendly and cheerful. However, the story of the two sisters had a sad ending. Life showed that even the closest and most sincere connections can be broken in a cruel and heartless way, and the circumstances are so strange that it's almost impossible to tell the truth from the lies. In 2019, Anna and her twin sister Amanda were both 27 years old. Anna had 3 children, while Amanda had just given birth to her first child. During this time, Amanda was experiencing a difficult period in her life. She had struggled with emotional problems after giving birth. She was diagnosed with postpartum depression, and her family around to support her. To help her sister Amanda through this difficult time, Anna often tried to bring some joy into her life. Amanda frequently met with Anna to have a drink and discuss the difficulty of motherhood, which both sisters understood well. On the evening of June 22nd, the sisters planned to attend a party with close friends. After the party, they intended to visit their cousin before heading home. That evening, Anna and Amanda gathered at home to choose their outfits and do their makeup. At the party, they had a great time, laughing and enjoying themselves. The next morning, Anna and Amanda posted a photo together on Anna's social media page and captioned it that they were having fun. Nobody anticipated that this cheerful post would be the last one where both twins would be alive. Just a few hours later, the police received a call from a distressed girl who said she had found her sister on the street. The caller is Amanda, and she urgently requested the officers to hurry. Amanda reported that Anna had been shot in the chest but didn't know who the shooter was. She noticed a deep cut on the right side of the chest. Anna was lying on the street right in front of their cousin's house, where they had spent most of the evening drinking and taking selfies. Amanda mentioned that they had visited a brother whom they had not seen for a long time, and it seems a conflict erupted there. Around 5:30, Anna was injured and collapsed on the sidewalk. After receiving the call, the medics quickly arrived at the scene. They found Anna lying on the asphalt in a pool of her own blood, while Amanda was not nearby. Anna had lost a large amount of blood, putting her life at risk, so urgent action was required. The police also responded and reached the scene after the ambulance. Anna was on the ground, seriously injured, bleeding, but still alive, with a deep wound in her chest. The medics promptly placed her in the ambulance and administered first aid during the ride. The police hoped Anna could identify her attacker, but she lost consciousness in the ambulance due to severe blood loss and was immediately taken to a medical center. On the way to the hospital, doctors tried to keep Anna alive. However, less than an hour later, at 6:20, the medical center staff pronounced her dead, unable to save her. This news was a devastating shock for her family. Suddenly, overnight, Anna, a mother of 3 children, was gone because of a violent act. The motive behind this senseless act was completely unclear. Anna was kind-hearted, empathetic, and had no legal issues or criminal history. Was she the victim of a random or intentional crime, and should the investigation focus on those around her to find the killer? The investigators quickly noticed that Anna's belongings, such as her money and mobile phone, were left untouched, suggesting she was not robbed. The violent nature of the incident indicated it was personal. Police began questioning neighbors, but they confirmed that Amanda's account of Anna arguing with her cousin was untrue. Several witnesses reported hearing only Anna and Amanda arguing loudly, with no men's voices present. This went on for a considerable time, until the argument stopped and the medics arrived. The police detectives came to Amanda's apartment to gather information. She had called the emergency number and was able to provide valuable information and an explanation of the argument. Amanda confirmed that she had argued with Anna that night, but she went home after the argument ended. Then something unexpected happened. Someone attacked Anna, but Amanda didn't see the attack. When she returned, she found Anna bleeding. When it was reported that Anna had died, Amanda showed no emotion. This might have been due to nervousness or exhaustion, but it caught the police's attention. Even though Amanda received the news of Anna's death with an odd calm, it was something else that caught the police's attention. What really intrigued the detectives were the bloodstains on Amanda's clothes. Additionally, her face had visible scratches and there was dried blood on her head. Her hands were covered in injuries typical of defensive actions, like cuts, suggesting she might have tried to take a knife from someone. The police also found several bloody footprints that went Anna's body on the street to the building's door, up the stairs, and reached the apartment where Amanda and Anna spent the night. At first, when investigators requested to enter the apartment, Amanda was hesitant to let them in because she was frightened and tried to persuade the officers that her injuries were accidental. However, the situation was too suspicious to accept her explanation. Ultimately, Amanda allowed the police to enter without requiring a warrant. At the apartment, they also discovered traces of blood. In the kitchen, they found a large carving knife in the sink, covered in dried blood. Detectives saw this as clear evidence implicating Amanda in Anna's death. She was promptly arrested and brought to the police station for questioning. During the interrogation, Amanda provided investigators with 3 different accounts of how Anna might have died. In the first account, Amanda claimed she had no idea what happened to Anna, stating that she found Anna already injured on the street. Amanda didn't notice any suspicious people or vehicles, leaving her completely baffled by the incident. Amanda thought that Anna would not have an enemy capable of such harm, so she speculated that her cousin might be involved. She recalled that Anna was conscious at the time but had lost a big amount of blood and was disoriented. Amanda got blood on herself while trying to help Anna and went into shock before entering the apartment, which seemed unconvincing. Additionally, Amanda didn't mention defensive wounds from a sharp object, and the bloody knife found in the kitchen was puzzling. Upon realizing that the police thought her story was a lie, Amanda attempted to revise her story. It's important to note that Amanda was very intoxicated, making it challenging for detectives to follow her narrative. Her testimony was confused and contradictory. Despite this, she offered a revised version of the incident that evening. They were at their cousin's house drinking. As morning approached, Anna drank too much and felt unwell, so she decided to order a taxi. When the car arrived, she said goodbye and left, but no one confirmed that she got into the car. After which Amanda decided to head home. On her way, she discovered Anna injured on the street. Anna had a severe chest wound and was bleeding heavily, but she couldn't explain what had happened. Amanda quickly called an ambulance and notified the police. The detectives attempted to reach the cousin who owned the apartment to verify Amanda's story. However, at the time, this was never done. Realizing her difficult position, Amanda desperately offered a third version of events. She confessed that while they were drinking, a fight broke out between she and Anna. Under the influence of alcohol, Anna lost control and punched she in the face. Although Amanda was momentarily disoriented, but she quickly regained her senses. She recalled feeling furious after Anna hit her, but then she experienced a memory lapse. Amanda intended to enter the apartment to cool down, but moments later, she found herself standing on the street in front of Anna, person who is bleeding. According to Amanda, she doesn't remember what happened during this time. The latest and most credible version of events is that during this time, she went into the apartment and took a kitchen knife. The conflict had subsided by then, although no one witnessed the incident, but all evidence suggests that Anna was killed. When Amanda saw Anna in that state, she went back to the apartment to grab a cell phone and call emergency services. During this time, she tossed a knife into the kitchen sink. She contacted the medics but stayed in the apartment, overwhelmed by shock. Sadly, Anna's injury was too severe, and she passed away. This tragedy deeply affected the Shi family. The news about the incident became a main topic in the media, especially within their local community. Many interviews were conducted, and most people found it hard to believe that such a tragedy could occur between them. Anna and Amanda's sisters were known to be so close, to the point that few can remember any petty quarrel between them. During this time, Amanda was arrested and sent to the county correctional center to await her murder trial. Her lawyer claimed the crime was accidental and argued that Amanda should be released on bail and placed under house arrest to care for her newborn daughter. However, the judge denied this request because of the crime's severity. Amanda was denied bail as she was deemed too dangerous for society. Concerns were raised about her emotional state, so psychiatrists frequently evaluated her. They found no mental disorders, deeming her sane and fit to stand trial. During this time, investigators thoroughly verified all the information provided. It was confirmed that Anna and Amanda did indeed spend time with cousin, who was eventually located and able to testify as a key witness. Although some neighbors heard arguments and the sounds of a struggle, no one witnessed the actual attack. Amanda continued to claim that she could not remember what happened. Cousin confirmed that a quarrel occurred between Anna and Amanda that night, but it ended, and he did not see any attack between them. The cousin stated that then Anna and Amanda had calmed down, and everything seemed normal. He never expected that Anna and Amanda, who had been so close since childhood, to be involved in something as unthinkable as a stabbing. The cousin confirmed that before things settled down, Anna and Amanda did get into a fight. This might explain the scratches on Amanda's hands and face, as well as more serious defensive wounds, deep cuts on her hands, suggesting they fought by a knife. However, the cousin did not know the reason for the sisters' fight. In September 2019, Amanda gave the investigators her final account of events to the best of her memory. She recalled having a fight with Anna while they were at their cousin's apartment, but claimed she was too drunk to remember the cause of the conflict. Amanda explained that at one point, she lost of awareness, and when she regained awareness, she found herself standing over Anna, holding a bloody knife. She noticed the bleeding was severe and worried that she might have been responsible. Feeling overwhelmed, Amanda said she left Anna in the street and fled. She confessed that she would never have acted this way if not for being intoxicated. Amanda, a young mother, recognized there was no excuse for her actions and expressed deep regret, but she stressed that the murder was accidental. The prosecution was certain that Amanda was not being entirely honest and that the attack was intentional. They believed that an argument led to Anna's death. Detectives suspected that Amanda had a motive, thinking she had held a long-standing grudge against Anna. In the end, her intoxication turned this anger into aggression. The investigators were trying to confirm if the act was premeditated. The police suspect that a man, who both sisters were attracted to, was involved in the incident, as he seemed to be the most likely cause of the conflict between them. Amanda explained this because she didn't want her loved ones to know that the death of Anna was due to such a trivial reason. This thing were confirmed by an anonymous source. One day, a man who wished to remain unnamed called the police station. He claimed that jealousy was the motive behind the cruel act against Anna. Anna's aunt also confirmed this thing. She shared the story with both the media and the police. According to her, the conflict arose because of Anna's husband. It was revealed that Amanda had secretly been in love with him for a long time. She envied Anna, and even used her resemblance to Anna to have sexual relations with him. When Anna discovered this, she was furious and accused Amanda of betrayal. The aunt mentioned that Amanda had often bragged that neither Anna nor her husband had any idea about the deception. This seemed especially horrific in light of the murder, giving the police strong reasons to suspect a premeditated act driven by jealousy. Even so, Amanda's family provided her with strong support. Her mother attended every hearing and was moved every time. Her mother realized that one daughter was already lost forever, and Amanda faced the possibility of spending her life in prison, which filled her with sorrow. Other relatives were also consistently present at the hearings, repeatedly pleading with the judge for leniency. They highlighted that Amanda had recently given birth, and her child risked growing up without a caring mother. In addition, the family also opposes the theory that the motive for the attack was a love triangle. Except for an aunt who gave conflicting testimony about affairs, no one had heard such rumors about Amanda's personal life. Everyone saw how warm and close the relationship between Anna and Amanda was. Even during the last party, they seemed very friendly. It was unlikely that they would have maintained such a close connection after the betrayal. Amanda's younger sister, named Monica, who was 19 at the time of the trial, claimed that Anna and Amanda had a very strong bond. She was sure there couldn't be any love triangles in their lives. Both sisters were decent and wouldn't get involved in something like that. Monica said that Anna had been in a long-term relationship with a man named Luis Rivera, who was also her husband. During that time, Amanda also had a boyfriend, with whom she had a child, and they were planning to get married. Therefore, there was no reason for Amanda to date Anna's boyfriend secretly. Monica added that Amanda called her as soon as the tragic incident happened. Amanda cried a lot during the phone call, insisting she did not remember anything. Monica believed that, in her current state, Amanda would be honest and confess if she were guilty. Consequently, she dismissed the prosecutor's suggestion that Amanda was involved with Anna's husband. Anna's husband also denied having any affair with Amanda's, stating that he could easily differentiate them and such deception was impossible. The prosecution continued to question Amanda, they trying to understand the motive behind the massacre, but they couldn't get any more information. Despite the murder, the entire Ramirez family and those connected to Amanda dismissed the idea of a love triangle as fiction. They were convinced that the case materials were fabricated by the police to treat the crime as a premeditated attack, which would mean imprisoning Amanda for a longer time. Anna's husband, Luis, firmly denied the aunt's statements. However, the prosecution continued with this theory, suggesting that Luis was unaware of being manipulated. The accusation of infidelity was central to the prosecution's strategy, which deeply enraged the entire Ramirez family. Amanda's lawyer mentioned that the incident might not be solely related to alcohol intoxication that night. Anna and Amanda drank a lot, but the aggression was due to postpartum depression. Amanda faced emotional issues after her pregnancy and struggled to manage them. Her lawyer explained that her mental state, along with excessive alcohol consumption, triggered an episode of uncontrollable aggression. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough evidence to support this claim. A psychiatric evaluation revealed that Amanda was fully aware of her actions. The tears of the mother and the pleas of the sisters had a positive impact. In November 2019, Amanda reached a deal with the prosecution. This deal resolved the controversy surrounding her motive and spared her family the ordeal of a lengthy trial. In the end, Amanda received a sentence of only 6 years in prison. She will be eligible for parole after serving 5 years. During the sentencing hearing, Amanda was overcome with emotion, breaking down in tears and trembling. She acknowledged that her actions were inexcusable, expressing remorse to those present. For Amanda, the most severe punishment was the pain of loss she would feel for the rest of her life. Amanda asked for forgiveness. Although inconsolable, but the family said they held no grudges and considered the punishment fair. Furthermore, Amanda's mother and younger sister announced they would continue to support she and her children until her release. Anna's mother took responsibility and custody of Anna's children. All the children went to live with their grandmother. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Natalia Martinez. Natalia Martinez was born in the late 1980s in Montevideo, the capital of Uruguay, and she was the youngest daughter in her family. While not much is known about her personality, she had a close relationship with her relatives, especially her older sister, Claudia. Her father was a senior salesman for a large international company that sold household appliances, which allowed the family to live comfortably. Natalia was a cheerful and friendly girl. During her teenage years, she formed a close-knit group of friends who supported one another during difficult times. These friends later described her as sociable and able to connect easily with strangers. After graduating from high school, Natalia began spending more time with her friends. They enjoyed going to various parties and eventually expanded their adventures by visiting the beaches of Uruguay for fun. To celebrate her 19th birthday on January 1st, 2007, Natalia and her friends planned a trip to La Paloma, a small resort town, where they stayed for 2 weeks. On January 16th, they traveled to a nearby resort in the city of Reales, where Natalia was delighted to meet her parents and sister, who were there for a 4-day vacation. The Natalia family had a wonderful time enjoying beach activities and were well known in the town, as they frequently visited. They often returned to the same places, making it feel like a second home. On January 18th, Natalia and her sister Claudia decided to drive to Punta del Este, another tourist town less than an hour away from Reales. They planned to stop at a popular local spa located about halfway between the two towns in the Serra San Antonio area. After their beauty treatment, the girls planned to go to a disco with 3 of Natalia's friends. However, as the evening approached, Claudia felt very tired and decided to go home to their parents. Despite this, 19-year-old Natalia Martinez was determined to stick to her plans. She wanted to enjoy herself, so she went with her friends to a popular party at the local nightclub, La Erin, Canada, where they stayed until around 5 a.m. As morning approached, the girls decided to leave the party and head home. At that time, Natalia was talking with a man named Leonardo Rakovin, an old acquaintance who owned a bookstore. They stopped near the exit and continued their conversation. However, Natalia became so engrossed in her discussion with Leonardo that her friends decided to go outside and get into the car they had arrived in, planning to head home together. The girls got tired and got into the car. One of them decided to check on Natalia, but when they returned to the nightclub, they found that Natalia and Leonardo were gone. The friends realized that Natalia could not have left alone or with anyone else without letting them know. Since they did not see her leave, they began to worry. They went up to the second floor, out of the bar, and saw Leonardo's BMW in the parking lot. The owner was inside the car, and because the windows were tinted, Rosalia and Silva could not see if anyone was in the passenger seat. However, they did notice some movement inside the car. The girls called out to Leonardo to ask about Natalia. He said he was in the car with a friend and mentioned that he had spoken to Natalia briefly before they parted ways. He claimed he had no idea what happened to her afterward or why she didn't return to her friends. The girls assumed Natalia had gone home, so they got into the car and drove to her friends' relatives, who were at the police station, just a 10-minute drive from the club. Rosalia and Silva stopped near the house and hunked to get Claudia's attention, trying not to wake the entire family. However, no one responded, so they returned to the club where they last saw Natalia. The girls continued to search for their friend for about 2 hours, but their efforts were unsuccessful. No one knew where she had gone. Around 8 a.m., Silva returned home, exhausted and very worried about her missing friend. Worried about her friend's safety, she decided to tell her parents everything that had happened. She feared something bad might have happened to her friend. Her parents tried to reassure her, telling her to rest and that her friend was probably already home. So, she went to bed. Yet, when she woke up at 11 a.m. that same day, her concerns grew stronger. The entire Natalia family started searching for she. They quickly got involved, and her friends went to the club together to find out what happened. Unfortunately, they were still unsuccessful. The club was closed, and no one had any helpful information. They searched the surrounding area for clues but found nothing. Around 5 p.m., Natalia's family and friends arrived at the police station. Maldonado police investigators received several photos, including one of all the girls relaxing at a club that evening. This helped them understand what the missing girl was wearing so they could come up with a description for the search. The police took their statements seriously and began investigating. Initially, the family said that Natalia had been at a party where she may have had too much to drink and left with someone. However, Rosalia and Silva insisted that Natalia had not consumed any alcohol that night, as she often denied. They also dismissed the police's suspicions that they had used illegal drugs. Police began a search operation. They first went to the location where Natalia was last seen. The club was open, but there were no surveillance cameras at the time. Police spoke to club employees and learned that a group of 3 young men sitting at a nearby table had been trying to approach the women throughout the evening. Natalia's friends confirmed that the men had been harassing them. Despite this information, police ignored the group of young men and instead focused on the acquaintance with whom Natalia had been talking before she disappeared. It was no surprise that Leonardo immediately became the prime suspect, since he was the last person to see Natalia. However, all of Leonardo's acquaintances described him as a kind and calm person who had never shown any signs of cruelty before and was incapable of harming anyone. He was a young businessman. That night, his girlfriend waited for him in the car while he was talking to Natalia. After that, he said goodbye to Natalia and returned to the car with his girlfriend. From the car, he saw Natalia go down the stairs and go out onto the porch. From that moment on, Leonardo was distracted by his conversation with his girlfriend and did not see Natalia again. However, he was not worried about her, since he did not notice anything suspicious around. No one was screaming or making noise. Despite the police suspicions, Leonardo insisted he had nothing to do with Natalia's disappearance. However, the police did not trust him. They needed to conduct a thorough examination of the BMW he drove away in after the party. Several witnesses reported seeing a similar car in various locations around the city, including near a forest on the outskirts. One man claimed he spotted a couple having sex in a car that matched the description on the night she went missing, near a lake by the woods. Police obtained a search warrant for Leonardo's car. During the initial inspection, they found a long, dark hair on the floor of the BMW and sent it for analysis. However, it did not match Natalia, it belonged to someone else. The interior of the car showed no signs of suspicious activity, no blood, or evidence of a struggle. Police speculated that Leonardo had cleaned the car shortly after Natalia Martinez disappeared, which would explain the clean condition of the car. Police used this detail as part of the evidence against Leonardo. However, they still lacked the evidence to arrest him. On January 22, a passerby driving on the outskirts of Polis discovered several items on the roadside. Among them were a woman's handbag containing a wallet and a pair of women's shoes. The most crucial piece of evidence was linked to Natalia Martinez, a case that was currently receiving significant media attention. Recognizing the situation, the witness promptly contacted the police. Unfortunately, the media coverage also led to the spread of various rumors, which Natalia's family had to repeatedly deny. One such rumor suggested that Natalia was involved with drug dealers, implying that she had become a victim of criminal activities. However, Natalia's father publicly refuted these claims in an official television statement. Despite the situation, rumors continued to spread. Some claimed to have witnessed her being attacked or even murdered. Instead of receiving assistance from the media, police found themselves overwhelmed by numerous false testimonies each day that needed to be verified, complicating the investigation. Meanwhile, the media eagerly reported even the most outrageous theories. The story was considered compelling and attracted many readers, causing journalists to add fuel to the fire of chaos surrounding the case. The rumors about the missing girl were leveraged to boost newspaper sales. Natalia's family endured immense pain following her disappearance. A large-scale search operation was organized, involving many police officers, friends, family members, and hundreds of volunteers. It was quickly determined that there was no evidence of the girl near the nightclub, prompting the search to extend into more distant areas of Uruguay. Ultimately, the entire coast was thoroughly searched. Most of the search operations took place on land, using service dogs, and later involving military and civilian aircraft. The City Fire Brigade also participated in the search and requested that the sewer systems be inspected. However, no traces of Natalia were found there either. By this point, law enforcement had largely concluded that Natalia was deceased, as the likelihood of finding her alive was very low. The critical window for finding missing persons is usually 48 hours. A significant finding occurred when a bone was discovered on the Grande Plateau, but tests revealed it was not human. Although the search had stalled and no new leads had emerged, Natalia's relatives continued their efforts. They remained hopeful that she was alive and being held against her will. In 2000, a female body was discovered in the forest near Lake Yulo. The body was in poor condition and was sent for examination to determine the identity of the deceased. This location was several kilometers from the club where Natalia was last seen, and the clothing found on the body led police to suspect it might belong to the missing Natalia Martinez. After the discovery of the body, police remembered a couple who had been seen having sex in a car near the forest, which drew attention to that area. The forensic expert who performed the autopsy struggled to gather important information because the body was in an advanced state of decomposition. To ensure a thorough examination, 5 forensic experts were called in. They determined that the body belonged to Natalia Martinez. Their overall assessment suggested that she likely did not die of natural causes, as there were faint signs of strangulation on her neck. Although they ruled out poisoning from substances or alcohol, they could not find evidence of physical or sexual violence due to the body's condition. It was noteworthy that the victim was found tied with nylon thread, but it remained unclear whether this occurred before or after her death. Several months later, while the investigation continued, an unexpected development arose. The man who had found her belongings on the roadside was discovered dead at the bottom of a cliff near his home. His name was initially kept confidential. Initially, it appeared that the man had voluntarily chosen to end his life. However, all his relatives insisted that he would never do such a thing. He was a deeply religious man, cherished his life, and loved his family. An autopsy revealed that the cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, sustained long before the fall from the cliff, suggesting he had been thrown off. This led police to believe the 2 cases were linked. But more evidence was needed. The next tragic event involved Natalia's father, Ever Martinez. He had fallen into a deep depression after his daughter's death and the damaging rumors that were circulating about their family. He ended his life at home by shooting himself in the head. His body was discovered by his daughter Claudia and his wife. The police closed the case after confirming that he had acted alone, a conclusion that the family accepted. For a long time, police struggled to make progress in the investigation into Natalia's murder. However, new information emerged from text messages exchanged with a friend just days before Natalia's death. In these conversations, Natalia mentioned a man she had recently met online. It was later discovered that he was one of the men who had been at the nightclub on the day Natalia went missing. These 3 young men were sitting at a nearby table, and several witnesses had pointed them out from the beginning of the investigation, but this information was overlooked. Police identified all 3 suspects, who were slightly older than Natalia. After interviewing them, the police became even more suspicious of their involvement, as the men contradicted each other in their statements about where they were and what they did during the night and morning of that tragic day. After this, the police interviewed a witness whose identity was kept confidential for her safety. She was the girlfriend of one of the men who had been arrested. Her testimony revealed that a young man in the group, Rodrigo Verghese, was involved in Natalia's murder. At the time, he was 25 years old, and police later stated that he had previously provided false statements. During the interrogation, police recorded phone conversations that implicated the Rodrigo main suspect. They collected DNA samples from him, but these were not helpful for the investigation due to the advanced decomposition of the remains. After that, the police reached out to the friends and relatives of the Rodrigo. A young man was called to testify on June 8, 2010, along with his friends who had been at a nightclub on the night of Natalia's murder. They all claimed they had no involvement in the incident. They stated that after spending the night at the club, they hired a sex worker to join them in their continued festivities. However, they denied any connection to Natalia. Rodrigo, the prime suspect, denied spending time with the murdered woman and claimed he did not know her. However, messages from the girl revealed that they had spoken online and planned to meet at a party, suggesting that Rodrigo had lied. Initial questioning did not turn up any clues, but a day later, police spoke to the young people again in the hope of getting a confession. This time, Rodrigo confessed. He explained that he had met Natalia online and after chatting for a while, they decided to meet at a club. Unfortunately, their conversation did not go well, and as dawn approached, he suggested they go to another nearby nightclub. Rodrigo misled her. He wanted to be alone with her. During this time, he began to harass her, according to his confession. When she rejected his advances, he seemed to accept it. However, Natalia then suffered an asthma attack, which led to convulsions and ultimately her death, as she did not have her inhaler or any medication with her. Rodrigo was confused and unable to help her. He stated that he panicked during her attack and didn't know what to do, especially when she stopped showing signs of life in his car. After the party, he planned to return to his family's farm, a short distance from the city. However, after Natalia's death, he decided to dispose of her body to avoid any further repercussions. He headed for the woods, thinking it would be a good place to hide her. There, he tied Natalia up, dragged her deeper into the woods, and covered her body with branches. But this was only part of the story. A witness walking along the beach claimed to have seen a couple having sex, and Natalia's body showed signs of strangulation. It seems that Rodrigo neglected to mention that he had strangled and raped her at the same time. Police were later able to confirm that Rodrigo's other friends were not involved in the incident, so they were released shortly after Rodrigo confessed. Rodrigo was formally charged with murder and taken into custody. After the confession, it appeared that the prosecutor's office would easily prove the Rodrigo's guilt. However, in mid-2010, as preliminary hearings began, Rodrigo Verghese recanted his confession. He claimed he admitted to the murder under police pressure and insisted he did not commit the crime. This assertion seemed unlikely because his confession included numerous details only the actual killer would know, including the precise location where the girl's body was found. Still, Rodrigo maintained his innocence. Despite the evidence against him, his defense team supported his statement and sought to demonstrate that Rodrigo was not at the club that night. They presented mobile phone data and a statement from his employer confirming that he had been working his usual evening shift that day. The next day, he attended a friend's wedding, and no one noticed anything unusual about his behavior. On September 2, 2010, Leonardo Roccovan, the bookstore owner who was initially the main suspect in the investigation, was called as a key witness for the prosecution. Leonardo testified that during a conversation, he had an argument with a young man. Leonardo identified the young man as Rodrigo. This indicated that Rodrigo was definitely at the nightclub and not at work. Natalia's friends also confirmed that he was at the nightclub that night. Forensic experts, working with the prosecution, provided insights based on the autopsy results. They noted that, due to the typical symptoms of asthma, the girl could not have died from an asthma attack so quickly. While she did experience an asthma attack, it could not have occurred instantaneously. It took several hours. Additionally, there were signs of strangulation on the victim's neck, which was likely the cause of death. Unfortunately, the experts could not provide further details about the victim's injuries. From late August to mid-September 2010, the prosecution successfully constructed a narrative of the crime, leading to Rodrigo Verghese being found guilty of Natalia Martinez's murder. He received a 9-year prison sentence. However, in February 2011, Rodrigo's lawyer submitted an appeal, claiming that the court's ruling was incorrect and that the prosecution was biased. The lawyer argued that they failed to present a witness to the kidnapping or murder, nor did they provide any compelling direct evidence. Natalia's family expressed disappointment, saying that the criminal received a lighter sentence than the family had expected. Disappointed by this leniency, Natalia's relatives filed a civil lawsuit against Rodrigo Verghese for causing harm to Natalia's family, holding him responsible for her father's death. Initially, they mentioned that Rodrigo should pay $15 in damages. However, after further discussion, both parties agreed to increase the amount of damages to $7,000. The court rejected the request for a longer sentence. On October 27, 2014, the lawyer achieved his goal when Rodrigo, 29, was pardoned after serving only 4 years and 2 months in prison. His release was largely due to his good behavior while in custody. Welcome back, detectives. Let's dive into another horrible case. The case of Taylor Wright. Taylor Wright was born on April 23, 1988. Friends and family described her as energetic and full of life. She was kind and empathetic, spending most of her life in North Carolina as she pursued her American dream. Taylor married Jeff Wright and later had a son named Drake. She earned a college degree and worked as an officer at the local police station, where she solved numerous crimes and was respected. To the outside world, Taylor's life seemed perfect. She had a loving husband, a son, and a respected job. However, the reality was that not everything in her life was as idyllic as it appeared. Taylor's close friends knew that she smoked marijuana occasionally, but she kept it a secret. During her time in the police force, she used it to manage stress and her heavy workload. She claimed that she didn't smoke regularly, only occasionally to relax after a long day. However, Jeff found out about her secret and left with her son after their divorce. This made Taylor realize that she needed to change her life. In 2016, Taylor decided to start over and moved to Pensacola, Florida, a small resort town with a population of about 52,000. She likes the warm, comfortable atmosphere here. After quitting her job, she began working as a private investigator. Armed with the knowledge and experience from her previous job, she was eager to apply her skills to help her clients. Taylor divorced her husband, but faced 2 major challenges: child custody and financial issues. Court proceedings to divide assets and child custody were ongoing. It was a complicated divorce, and despite her efforts to reach an agreement, they were unable to reach an agreement, which dragged on. In September 2017, frustrated by financial disputes, Taylor withdrew money from her bank account without telling Jeff. The money, which was her personal savings, was something she did not want to share with Jeff. After withdrawing the money, she gave it to a friend to keep. One of Taylor's friends, Ashley MacArthur, is the main character in this story. Taylor has known Ashley, a forensic scientist, for over a year. Although it was a relatively short period of time, they became very close, to the point where Taylor entrusted Ashley with a large sum of money. Ashley agreed to help and was supposed to deposit the money in a safe deposit box, keeping it a secret from Jeff until Taylor was ready to use it. However, she soon needed money to pay for a lawyer. When Taylor reached out to Ashley, she noticed that Ashley always had excuses for delaying the return of the money or only giving her small amounts. Ashley claimed she was having trouble withdrawing the funds or that there were issues with the bank. During this time, Taylor grew increasingly suspicious that something was wrong and worried that her money might have been spent. Despite Taylor's persistent requests for the full amount to be returned, Ashley continued to provide various excuses. On the evening of September 7, 2017, Taylor and her friend Cassandra Waller went out to dinner. Cassandra had quickly become close friends after Taylor moved to the area. Cassandra was new to the city and Taylor suggested they rent an apartment together. Cassandra, a kind teacher, agreed. Over time, they developed a strong friendship. During dinner, Taylor shared her financial concerns, especially about her friend Ashley, who she believed was intentionally delaying repayment of money. Taylor expressed concern that Ashley might have spent the money or not want to pay it back. This made Taylor very anxious and stressed because she desperately needed the money to hire a good lawyer. That evening, Cassandra comforted Taylor, reassuring her that the matter would eventually be resolved, although she also had doubts about whether the money was still there. Taylor mentioned that she had scheduled a meeting with Ashley the next day, September 8th, to go to the bank together. On the morning of September 8th, as Cassandra was getting ready for work, she said goodbye to Taylor. And on her way out of the house, she saw Ashley's sitting car in the driveway. They were finally ready to take care of their banking issues. The girls said goodbye, and Cassandra drove off to school. Later that day, Ashley called Cassandra to inform her that she and Taylor had decided not to go to the bank, opting instead to go to the farm. This confused Cassandra, as she knew Taylor was in dire need of money. The night before, Taylor had been very stressed and emotional at dinner, eager to get her financial situation sorted out. Ashley explained that she and Taylor had been discussing Taylor's struggles. Ashley suggested that horseback riding might help Taylor improve spirit, therefore them to cancel their bank trip and plan an alternative vacation. This explanation seemed strange to Cassandra, but she wished them luck anyway. However, after the call, Cassandra attempted to contact Taylor but received no response to her calls or messages. Later on, Cassandra received a text from Taylor, who said she couldn't talk at the moment but would call back later. Taylor explained that she was feeling uncertain and depressed due to her divorce and the changes in her life, and that she was going out of town for a few days. Cassandra believed her and decided to give her friend some space. A couple of days later, Cassandra reached out again, asking Taylor to return home as soon as she could. After that, she received no response. As the days passed, Cassandra tried to contact Taylor several times, but Taylor continued to ignore her calls and texts, even though some of the messages were marked as read. Taylor did not return home, and all of her belongings were still intact, which made Cassandra increasingly worried about her friend's safety. Cassandra wanted to see Taylor to make sure she was okay. Their neighbor said that Taylor had used drugs in the past and that she could become withdrawn during difficult times. With the difficulties Taylor was having, Cassandra was worried that she might relapse. Cassandra was feeling anxious. A week had gone by with no news, and waiting seemed pointless. Concerned, her reached out to the police. She told the officers that something was off, as Taylor was behaving unusually and had completely disappeared without explanation. In their shared apartment, there were numerous personal items belonging to Taylor that she would have taken if she had moved. There was no valid reason for her to ignore her friend's calls. Until now, Taylor had never done anything like this. After hearing Cassandra's story, the police took note of the unusual aspects of the case. The police focused on the time frame of her disappearance. Naturally, they interviewed Cassandra first, since she lived in the same house as Taylor and had a close relationship with her. Meanwhile, searches were conducted in the apartment that Cassandra shared with Taylor. In the apartment, the police found Taylor's identification, some cash, and an unloaded revolver. Cassandra explained that they kept weapons in the house for self-defense, but they had never used them. There was nothing else suspicious found, but it was evident that Taylor could not have left for an extended period without her documents, money, and belongings. Cassandra was questioned several times, and she quickly felt that the police suspected her and shifted their focus to proving her innocence. Despite this, she continued to cooperate with the investigation because she wanted to find out the truth. Eventually, she was ruled out as a suspect. Police initially focused on Jeff, given their contentious divorce, which involved the division of assets and custody of their son. Jeff certainly had a strong motive to harm Taylor, but police quickly determined that he was in North Carolina at the time of her disappearance and had not left the city. He had recently remarried and was focused on building a new life, with little regard for his ex-wife. Family members confirmed that despite their divorce, Jeff and Taylor remained on good terms for the sake of their 6-year-old son. Jeff was known to be non-confrontational and had never harmed Taylor. He was not even aware that she had withdrawn money and tried to conceal it. Therefore, there was no reason for him to be angry with her, prompting police to immediately eliminate him as a potential suspect. The police then decide to talk to Ashley, whom Cassandra had mentioned. Her behavior is very unusual. They bring her in for questioning, and the police quickly notice that she is even flirting with the police, which shows that she is not at all concerned about her friend's disappearance. Ashley seems to believe that Taylor is okay. She knows that Taylor has been addicted to marijuana in the past and thinks that Taylor is not really missing but is simply indulging her addiction. Ashley speculates that after receiving some money, Taylor relapsed and went off to use. However, this explanation seems unconvincing because Ashley had previously told Cassandra about the trip to the farm, but she didn't mention that. Only when the police press her does Ashley reveal that they went to the farm because Taylor wanted to relax. During the trip, Taylor confided in her about the stress she was under from the divorce proceedings, which had affected her mental health. After some time, Taylor expressed that she was tired and wanted to go home. She called an Uber and left. Ashley reported that she hadn't seen or heard from Taylor, despite making several attempts to call her. The police were aware of a money issue that Ashley was supposed to resolve but was avoiding, leading them to suspect she was hiding something. Suddenly, Ashley started mentioning a safe deposit box and money, claiming she had no knowledge of the funds being talked about. At this point, the police were confused as there was no clear information regarding the money. Police then decided to look into text messages between her and Taylor. They discovered numerous discussions about money, with Ashley frequently postponing meetings and transferring money. In the text messages, they talked about going to the bank on September 8th to withdraw money. Police requested footage from cameras near Taylor's home. After reviewing the videos, they found the women near Taylor's apartment, which matched Cassandra's earlier account. Ashley was in a car in front of the house when Cassandra left. Taylor then left the house and left with Ashley. Using geolocation, police tracked Taylor and Ashley's movements. Police reviewed surveillance footage from across the city and saw them buying beer and food, which appeared to be normal. However, no further information about their whereabouts was available after that. Inconsistencies began to appear between Ashley's testimony. However, the police decided to release her because they did not have enough evidence against her at that time. After that, Ashley contacted the police station almost daily to check on the progress of the investigation and to see if they had any new information. She wanted to help and often recounted the details of that day, as well as places where Taylor might have gone. During the conversation, she suggested that police should search alleys and talk to people who are selling illegal substances. She believed that Taylor was simply depressed and using drugs uncontrollably, and she repeatedly urged the police to follow up on this lead. She also talked about some suspicious suspects that she had seen with Taylor. Despite Ashley's best efforts to appear concerned, but police are still investigating her connection to Taylor's disappearance. Video evidence shows that Ashley visited the bank after Taylor went missing. During that visit, she withdrew money from Taylor's card. Police are particularly concerned about any potential conflict between Ashley and Taylor. Ashley had a strong motive for her actions, the $34,000 in question. It is suspected that she deliberately delayed her response because she did not want to return the money. Fearing that Taylor might report this to the police, Ashley may have decided to eliminate her friend. With Taylor missing for such a long time, there are concerns that she is no longer alive, but this needs to be confirmed. Ashley had a significant advantage. She worked for the police department and was married to a former deputy chief of the Battery Falcons. This created a difficult situation for the officers, who could not be sure of their safety while investigating her. As a result, they chose to keep the investigation secret. In October, Ashley was called in for questioning again. As the case progressed, documentary and circumstantial evidence accumulated that linked her to Taylor's disappearance. The police noticed a marked change in Ashley's behavior. She went from being outgoing and flirtatious to being withdrawn and clearly anxious. By this time, the police had verified that most of her previous statements were lies. They presented her with clear contradictions in her testimony and began investigating the cashing of hidden checks, which were likely to have forged signatures. At the very least, this could lead to accusations of fraud, but there could be darker motives behind these actions. Ashley initially claimed that she and Taylor had gone to East Milton, where they allegedly spent the day at a farm with animals. They were last seen on surveillance footage at 11:45 a.m., which was the only footage of Taylor alive during her initial interview. She was recorded on surveillance cameras in various locations throughout the day, but she was seen alone. As the police continued to talk to Ashley, she became increasingly nervous. Her answers became more confused, and she struggled to explain the discrepancies in her story. The police obtained a search warrant for the farmhouse but found no evidence in the large area. They then asked about the checks to determine if they were indeed counterfeit. If the checks were genuine, that would mean that Taylor was still alive when Ashley went to the bank, but Ashley could not give a clear answer. She just said that the checks could be real. While examining the geolocation data on Ashley's cell phone, police discovered that she had been staying at Britt Road for an extended period of time. This was another farm owned by her family. In fact, they had been there for several hours before Taylor disappeared. Ashley again confirmed that Taylor was going to buy a truck from a dealership. But this time, she added new details to the story. She said that Taylor was going back to the farm. Ashley had not mentioned these details in her earlier statements, claiming that Taylor had asked her to keep the incident private. Ashley believed that Taylor was still alive and would come back, so she did not want to harm her reputation in front of the police. However, she lied multiple times, leading the police to lose trust in her. The police were very interested in the Ashley family farm in Britt Road. It was a large, isolated area that would have been a fit place to commit the crime and cover it up. During their questioning, the police noted another strange aspect of Ashley's behavior: why she did not contact the police immediately when Taylor promised to return but did not show up. It was clear that Taylor was in trouble and needed help. Although Ashley tried to show concern to the police, she made no effort to find Taylor. Why did she wait until she was called in for questioning to show concern? These questions remain unanswered, but the police believe that Ashley was withholding important information. After her trip to the farm with Taylor, Ashley frequently called the police station to check on the investigation into her friend's disappearance, especially after her initial interview. She was anxious to know if she was being considered a suspect. After her conversation with the police, Ashley realized that she was the prime suspect in the case. She decided to ask for a lawyer, which ended her visit to the police station. On the morning of October 19, 2017, Ashley returned home. That afternoon, police obtained a search warrant for the farm where she and Taylor had been staying. Specially trained dogs were deployed in the search, and within 2 hours, they discovered a suspicious burial site. It was a small pit that appeared to have been recently dug and had been covered with concrete. A human skull was found in a shallow grave, along with other remains that had been hastily buried in the dirt and construction debris. The victim died from a gunshot wound to the head. Due to the advanced state of decomposition, the body could not be identified at the scene. However, based on clothing and jewelry, it is believed that it was Taylor. An autopsy confirmed that the body was Taylor Wright, 30. The identification was completed using dental records and DNA analysis. Ashley was arrested that evening, October 19, 2018, and charged with premeditated murder. Ashley's defense attorney believed in her innocence, but the abundance of circumstantial evidence made it challenging to convince the jury of her non-involvement in the crime. The attorney focused on Ashley's psychological profile, portraying her as sweet, pretty, and a police officer, which seemed inconsistent with being a violent criminal. Friends and family described Ashley as quiet, modest, and incapable of murder, especially when considering her physical attributes. In contrast, Taylor was physically stronger, leading the prosecution to question the defense's arguments. The lawyer developed his strategy based on the fact that the police lacked direct evidence to prove Ashley's guilt. There was no murder weapon, no witnesses, and no DNA linking Ashley to the body. This made it difficult for the prosecutor's office to connect Ashley to the crime. One witness was the victim's ex-husband, Jeff. He stated that he reached out to Ashley a few days after his Taylor went missing, trying to locate her to address some matters related to their marriage and divorce. Jeff contacted Ashley via social media. She claimed that the last time she saw Taylor was when she was exchanging money. She expressed concern about whether Taylor had arrived safely. This was a new detail that Ashley had never mentioned before, leading the police to realize that she was a pathological liar who had deceived everyone around her. Although Jeff was initially investigated and cleared as a suspect due to a solid alibi, he still had a strong motive. The lawyer attempted to redirect the jury's attention to Jeff's possible involvement in his ex-wife's murder. But these efforts were unsuccessful. The testimonies from Ashley's close friends greatly influenced the jury. They revealed that the Ashley was not as she seemed. She frequently visited a strip club. Bartenders and staff stated that just before Taylor went missing, Ashley spoke negatively about Taylor. Later, a gun associated with Taylor's death was discovered in Ashley's house. After new evidence emerged, the Ashley admitted to spiking Taylor's beer with a strong substance. However, when Taylor took a sip, she noticed the drink tasted odd and clearly spoiled. She spat it out and refused to drink any more, which likely led to the failure of Ashley's poisoning plan. Despite this admission, Ashley denied any involvement in the shooting of her friend. The prosecution argued that she had a strong motive. Ashley was holding on to a large sum of Taylor's money and was delaying returning it. Taylor desperately needed the money to pay her lawyer, so if Ashley delayed paying, Taylor would likely report the matter to the police. This situation gave Ashley a motive to get rid of her friend. The police later discovered the reason for the delay in returning the money. Ashley had been secretly having an affair with a man named Brandon, without her husband's knowledge. It was revealed that she had spent all of the money on Brandon, including giving him a motorcycle just weeks before Taylor went missing. This coincided with the time she had received money from Taylor. In court, Brandon admitted that Ashley had frequently given him expensive gifts, but he did not know where she got the money, as she had no other source for such a large sum of money. The police tracked Ashley's movements and discovered that she had gone to Home Depot after Taylor went missing. The police spoke to a sales clerk who confirmed that Ashley had purchased several bags of quick-drying solution. When the substance found in Taylor's grave was tested, it matched the quick-drying compound mentioned by the hardware store employee. This suggests that Ashley attempted to quickly hide Taylor's body on the farm to avoid detection. However, Ashley's attorney argued that she was not physically able to carry the heavy bags, dig the grave, and move Taylor's body. The jury then deliberated for about 4 hours and found Ashley MacArthur guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison, eligible for parole after 25 years. She also served an additional 7 years for fraud related to Taylor Wright's finances. Hi everyone, thanks for returning. Let's unravel another perplexing mystery. The case of Chiara Poggi. Chiara Poggi was born in Vigai, Italy, on March 31, 1981. She studied economics and landed a job as a financier at a large company. She was a delicate girl with expressive blue eyes. She was determined to advance her career and become a manager, with the ultimate goal of starting her own business. To achieve this, she focused on her studies and graduated. Alongside her professional ambitions, Chiara also wanted to start a family. At that time, she had been in a relationship with a man named Alberto for 7 years. Unfortunately, all her dreams seemed to stop there, as fate had other plans for her. On August 13, 2007, at approximately 9:12 a.m., Chiara was going about her daily routine when someone knocked on her door. She opened it, unaware that this decision would lead to her death just a few hours later. At 1:50 p.m., Alberto called the Italian emergency services, 118, to report a tragedy at his girlfriend's home. Alberto had discovered Chiara's body. He explained that he had visited and found her lying in a pool of blood. When the dispatcher asked if he could help the victim, Alberto said he couldn't bear to look at the scene and had already left to contact the police. He provided the address and implied that his girlfriend was already dead when he called. When asked why he did not wait for the police at the scene, the Alberto explained that the house was located on a dead-end street, making it hard for the police to find. He decided to go to the police himself and bring them to the tragedy scene to prevent confusion. The Carabinieri arrived after being directed by the emergency services dispatcher. All the doors of the house were locked, so the officers had to climb over the fence. Once inside the kitchen, they discovered signs of a struggle. The Chiara seemed to have been attacked while cooking. Dishes were scattered, and there were open boxes containing a knitting needle, which suggested a confrontation might have taken place. The police also found initial evidence of a violent crime. There were drops of blood on the floor. And in the room near the exit, they discovered a potholder and white slippers that were later confirmed to belong to the Chiara. The Carabinieri entered the next room and discovered Chiara lying face down on the steps near the basement entrance. She appeared to have been taken by surprise, as she was still wearing her pink summer pajamas. Chiara showed signs of a severe beating. It seemed she had been struck multiple times with a heavy object, likely a hammer. The police officers quickly spotted important evidence in the pool of blood, a strand of hair that obviously did not belong to Chiara and a distinctive shoe print left in the dried blood. The lack of warmth in the Chiara's body suggested that she had been killed a few hours earlier. The police quickly contacted Chiara's parents. Rita, the mother, was on vacation in Trentino and had missed the call. She called back around 3:30 p.m. and was so distraught by the news that she nearly fainted. She rushed back to the city. When Rita arrived at the police station, her husband, Giuseppe, Chiara's father, was there. Nicola Stassi, Alberto's father, was also there when his son was brought to the station. Alberto called his father for support. Alberto, 20, shared his story of events with the police by the time Chiara's parents arrived. Alberto said he called Chiara at 9:45 a.m., but she did not answer. He was not concerned at first, thinking she might still be asleep. After noon, he made several attempts to contact her on both her cell phone and her home phone, but received no response. At 11:15 a.m., he decided to go play golf. After returning from his match at around 12:30 p.m., Alberto found all of Chiara's doors locked and she was not answering his phone calls. Worried, he climbed over the fence and tried to open the door, but it was locked. He then broke in through the kitchen window, the only way into the house. Inside, he found the TV on. At first, he thought Chiara might still be asleep in her room. However, when he could not find her, he went into the kitchen and saw drops of blood on the dishes. He then went into the living room, where he discovered her body, leaving him in shock. It's strange that he didn't approach Chiara to check on her or try to help. Instead, he ran to get the investigator. At that moment, she was still alive, and she might have been saved. Rather than ensuring his girlfriend was okay or providing first aid, he left the house and headed to the police station. Once in the car, he called for an ambulance. During the police interrogation, They noticed his odd behavior and questioned why he didn't check if the girl was breathing. Instead of helping her, he just ran away and called the police. Alberto explained that he was scared and confused, which led him to call for help right away. However, he could have stayed, called for medics, and waited for the ambulance while performing CPR. He claimed he left because he felt unsafe in the house after the attack and sought protection from police. The Alberto spent the entire day at the police station and around midnight. He was getting ready to meet with the police again to answer their questions. Meanwhile, forensic experts were carefully examining the crime scene and were puzzled by a footprint found in a pool of the Chiara's blood. They asked Alberto to show them his shoes. He was wearing special white golf shoes that were spotless. He claimed he had been wearing them when he arrived at his girlfriend's house. However, this raised suspicions because the floor around the body was covered in blood. How could someone walk around in such a bloody scene without getting any blood on their shoes? There wasn't a single drop of blood on the soles, and the Alberto couldn't provide a clear explanation for this. The police decided to question Alberto about his relationship with Chiara, the murdered girl. Alberto described their relationship as wonderful, claiming they had very few problems. Like any couple, they occasionally argued, but these conflicts were minor and quickly resolved. The police then asked him for more details about the events leading up to her death to help establish a timeline and identify any suspicious activity. However, Alberto offered no significant information. The police took his fingerprints and ultimately released him due to a lack of evidence, keeping him at the police station for just under a day. Finally, around 7 a.m., Alberto got into his father's car and went home. On August 17th, when police examined the search history and files on Alberto's computer, he claimed he woke up early that morning, around 9 a.m., and was working on his thesis while trying to call his girlfriend, after which he went to play golf. Evidence confirmed that he was home, fed his dog, and then left the house. Although it seemed that Alberto had an alibi, the police remained suspicious. The police continued their investigation to reconstruct the timeline of the attack. They were particularly focused on how the crime occurred and still needed to identify the murder weapon. Based on the condition of the Chiara's body, it appeared the attacker used a metal object, possibly something like a hammer with a pointed end or an ice pick. At that point, the forensic report indicated that Chiara was likely murdered between 9 and 10 in the morning. When the police examined the prime Alberto's mobile phone records, they discovered that his mother called him daily just before 10 a.m. Elizabeth, the mother, confirmed that she spoke to her son that day to check on a friend, seemingly validating his alibi and suggesting he could not have committed the murder during that time. However, upon further investigation of the call logs, the police found that the mother did not call her son that day, raising suspicions. Alberto's motives are unclear. Friends confirmed that Chiara and Alberto had a wonderful relationship, with only minor disagreements that are typical of any young couple. A friend named Marco saw Alberto the day after the tragic event and noticed that Alberto seemed distressed. He refused to eat and spoke very little, often expressing his deep sadness over Chiara's death. Meanwhile, the investigation was progressing. The police had gathered preliminary investigation materials, autopsy reports, and numerous witness testimonies about the couple. After August 20th, forensic experts continued analyzing the evidence, including hair found in a pool of blood that did not belong to the Chiara. They also examined materials collected from under Chiara's fingernails. Additionally, several blood splatters were discovered in the house that did not seem to match Chiara's, suggesting they might belong to the assailant. On the morning of August 22nd, Alberto visited the police station to obtain some documents. He spent a few hours speaking with the police, who were hoping to gather new information from him. Additionally, at 2 p.m., Alberto was scheduled to take part in an interrogation with the prosecutor present. With police showing increased interest, the Alberto was preparing for his meeting with his lawyer. By this time, Alberto had already spent over 26 hours at the station, providing the police with all the information they requested. He repeated his account of the events from August 13th. But the police were more focused on the evening of the 12th, the night before the bloody massacre took place. That night, the couple ordered 2 pizzas from a nearby restaurant and spent the evening eating and watching TV. Alberto then went home. Police scrutinized every detail of his statement for any inconsistencies, especially questioning why Alberto left after dinner. Throughout the investigation, Alberto repeatedly maintained that he had nothing to do with his girlfriend Chiara's death. The prosecution remained skeptical. He questions why there was no blood on Alberto's white sneakers as he moved around the house. Was he really that cautious? Why did Alberto leave on the night of the 12th instead of staying with Chiara? And why did he not help her when he found her unconscious? Unexpectedly, Chiara's neighbor provided some information. At around 9 a.m., she noticed a bicycle parked near the entrance to Chiara's house. As a cyclist, she found this strange, as she had never seen Chiara or Alberto riding such a bicycle. Later, the bicycle was spotted near Chiara's fence. The neighbor, who was knowledgeable about bicycles, realized that it was a women's model equipped with unusual accessories not usually found on regular bicycles. The woman did not think about what would happen next. She looked out her window around 10 o'clock or 10:30 a.m. and noticed that the vehicle was no longer by the neighbor's fence. This information caught the police's attention, as it might be an important clue. The police realized that finding this bike could significantly advance their investigation, as locating the owner might lead them to the killer. However, their search for this type of bike hit a dead end because the description provided was too vague. Later, another neighbor, a 47-year-old woman, contacted the police. She reported seeing a bike near Chiara's house at 9:30 a.m. and confirmed it was a women's model with a new color, although some details did not match. It's possible that one of the neighbors had remembered those details incorrectly. Meanwhile, over several days, several lawyers defended Alberto, including his brothers, Giulio and Giuseppe Colli, who worked in the Vai Giovanna Bar Association. However, by this time, the police had discovered the complicated love story between Chiara and Alberto. The love between the Chiara and Alberto was genuine, and their relationship was going well. This was evident to those who knew them and was reflected in their frequent exchanges of affectionate messages. They hardly ever argued, and when they did, the disagreements were minor and quickly resolved. However, in the week leading up to the incident, some unusual changes were observed in their relationship. It seems that Chiara has recently stopped wanting to see Alberto, and they have started sleeping in separate rooms even when he stays overnight. Alberto attributes this behavior to the fact that he prefers to sleep in a double bed in Chiara's brother's room, where he finds it more comfortable. There were very few photographs of the couple together, raising concerns about their relationship. Instead, the Alberto's secret folder contained hundreds of photos of women's feet in shoes, leading to suspicions that the couple's seemingly happy exterior was hiding deeper issues. This raised the question, could Alberto's unusual fetish have been connected to the murder? The case took a dramatic turn 43 days after Chiara's death, when police discovered Alberto's sister's bicycle, matching a neighbor's description. Blood was found on the pedals, which was later confirmed through laboratory testing to be Chiara's. However, Alberto's sister had a solid alibi, as she was at work at the time of the incident. Initially, Alberto was believed to have borrowed his sister's bicycle. The family and the community were shocked. They did not believe Chiara's boyfriend was guilty until the very end. However, when traces of her DNA were found on the pedals of the bike, they had no choice but to accept his guilt. Relatives were also shocked by Alberto's behavior. He met with them several times after the tragedy and still steadfastly maintained his innocence. The parents displayed clear signs of their grief. The lawyer passionately defended his client, trying to explain the presence of the Chiara's blood on the petals, despite the significant amount found, which was not just a few drops. The defense attempted to dismiss this evidence by suggesting it could be related to menstruation and other implausible theories. Ultimately, despite these efforts, Alberto was arrested. On September 28, the judge reviewed the case file and determined that there was not enough evidence against the suspect, leading to Alberto's immediate release from prison. The case file was then sent back to the prosecution for further examination. Police had found a significant amount of specific pornographic material on the Alberto's computer. They believed that his girlfriend might have discovered his secret fetish, which could have caused tension between them. A conflict arose, and this seems plausible considering that on August 12, the day before the incident, the Alberto had been working on his laptop at Chiara's place and had left it there, giving her access to the stored information. Alberto had many photographs of women's shoes that he seemed to have taken himself, particularly during a recent trip to London shortly before his relationship with Chiara started to decline. Additionally, there were images capturing private moments between the Chiara and Alberto. These photos were blurred, but the girl appeared to be quite embarrassed in them. It's possible that the Alberto's specific preferences in intimacy contributed to their disagreements. Alberto acknowledged that he has certain fetishes, but he claimed that the Chiara always accepted, and it never caused any issues between them. On November 3, 2008, Alberto was charged once more. Police believed they had sufficient evidence to link him to Chiara's murder. It was clear that the Alberto knew the victim well, as he had unrestricted access to her home. This was supported by the fact that nothing was broken or stolen, and the Chiara was found wearing her home clothes. The strongest evidence was a footprint found in the Chiara's blood. It was a size 42 shoe print that matched the Alberto's foot size. After committing the crime, Alberto replaced his old shoes with a brand new pair that he wore during his first interrogation. Despite blood prints being found on the bicycle pedals, he persisted in denying any involvement. It seems he successfully disposed of the sneakers he wore when he left the Chiara's house after the murder. On February 24, 2009, during the preliminary hearing, the prosecution requested a 30-year prison sentence. Although they had initially requested a life sentence, after reviewing the case documents, the judge determined that further improvements were needed. He identified many of the evidence as being implausible. Extensive research was conducted, including a reconstruction of the events using computer models. A comprehensive model of Chiara's house was built, allowing the police to track the killer's movements. On August 13, 2009, a detailed report was submitted to the court. According to this report, the Alberto turned on his computer at 9:35 a.m. and viewed several pornographic photographs. He continued this activity until 12:20 p.m. and identified only 3 possible time intervals during which the murder could have occurred. The house alarm was deactivated at 9:12 a.m., and there is no information about Alberto's activities between then and 9:35 a.m. The second time window for the murder was from 12:20 p.m. to 12:46 p.m., as the Alberto called Chiara's mobile phone from his home shortly after 12:46 p.m. There was also a time frame available for the murder from 12:46 p.m. to 1:26 p.m. The forensic expert determined that the Chiara likely died between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning, suggesting that the earlier time frame was more plausible. Meanwhile, the defense pointed out several mistakes made by the police during the investigation. The forensic expert noted that evidence was mishandled. There were numerous errors and inconsistencies, including the failure to collect the Chiara's fingerprints. Police also did not investigate other people who may have used the bicycle seen near Chiara's house, which weakened the prosecution's case. Additionally, the provisional time frame established suggests that Alberto had no more than 23 minutes to commit the crime, set up the scene, escape, and dispose of the shoes. Alberto lived a mile from Chiara's house, and if he had been able to ride his bicycle to Chiara's house, it would have been physically difficult and inconsistent with the timeline of events. Despite this, the prosecution believed he could have done so. On December 17th, the judge left the courtroom to consider his verdict. The prosecution asked for a 30-year prison sentence. However, they failed to present convincing evidence of his guilt. There were no bloody shoes, video footage, witness testimony, or obvious motives linking Alberto to the murder. Ultimately, the judge found Alberto not guilty. The verdict shocked the local community, which had expected a different outcome and labeled Alberto a murderer. However, the case did not end there. Chiara's family filed an appeal on November 8, 2011, leading to a new trial. This hearing lasted several weeks, during which the public and media were barred from the courtroom, allowing journalists only to enter when the decision was announced. The court acquitted the Alberto Stasi once more during a retrial on April 18, 2013. The lawyer emphasized that the charges lacked grounding and that there was insufficient evidence. He also argued that it would have been impossible for Alberto to commit the murder and cover up the evidence in just 23 minutes. Following the death of Alberto's father, who was killed in a Pavia hospital on April 9, 2014, a new phase in the investigation began. This phase included various pieces of evidence, such as computer modeling and a thorough analysis of a bicycle found in the Alberto's home. Unexpectedly, during this investigation, Alberto confessed to murdering Chiara. The case was so complex that without this confession, he likely would have been acquitted again. However, under public pressure, he ultimately admitted his guilt. On December 17, 2014, 37-year-old Alberto Stasi received a 16-year prison sentence and was ordered to pay €1 million in compensation to the Chiara's family. Hello friends, welcome to our channel. Today we're going to take a look at another horrible case with you. The case of Jalia Davis. The police officers who arrived at the scene were horrified by what they discovered. Body parts were scattered on the road, and the girl was found decapitated and missing a leg. Blood was splattered everywhere, creating a gruesome sight. But what had actually occurred? Jalia Davis was born in Colorado Springs in 1991. She has an older sister named Toby Davis. They had a close relationship, like best friends. Eventually, the family moved to Marietta, a small town of 13,000 people near the West Virginia border. After finishing school, Jalia took a job at a local store, aspiring to become an esthetician as her dream for the future. On Friday, November 18, 2011, 20-year-old Jalia left home around 6 p.m. to meet her friend Kristen. They planned to get ready for a party together at Brian's house, where Jalia would spend the night afterward. The girls dressed up, applied makeup, and styled their hair beautifully. Friends picked them up, and they all went to the party and then to the pool room in the park. Although Jalia didn't know the other friends very well, she enjoyed her time with Kristen. She texted her mom Kim updating her on their plans and saying they were having a great evening. Her last text was sent at 9:30 p.m. The party with Jalia's friends was still going strong. At 3:28 a.m., Toby received a call from Jalia, who was at the gas station. Toby was with a guy at the time and told Jalia that they were coming to pick her up. During the call, Toby heard Jalia ask Kristen to give her her keys, while Kristen mumbled something in the background. Then Toby and her lover went to the gas station. 5 minutes later, Jalia called Toby again, her tone angry and annoyed. She asked Toby to meet her somewhere else. While stopped on the highway, Toby asked Jalia what was going on. Jaliyah replied that it was not something to discuss over the phone and insisted on explaining in person. Toby could hear Jaliyah arguing with Kristen, accusing her of being a bad friend. Toby realized that the two friends had argued. Since they were in a hurry, Jaliyah decided to change direction and go to a location about 20 minutes away. Jaliyah urged older sister to hurry and yelled at Kristen, calling her terrible. Toby tried to calm her down, assuring her that they would be there soon as she and her lover ran towards them. 20 minutes later, Toby decided to call Kristen and ask what had happened to them. Before Kristen could reply, the connection was lost. Toby and her lover arrived at the designated location but could not believe their eyes. Several police cars had blocked the road. They stopped and asked the police what was going on. The police replied that there was a dead body of a girl on the road. It was an African-American woman wearing a white coat. Toby looked at her boyfriend in horror. According to the description, it was Jaliyah. The police did not tell Toby anything else. In a panic, she called Kim, her mother, and the rest of the family, who quickly arrived at the scene. While waiting for her family, Toby called Kristen back. She said she saw something, then hung up. Toby tried to call Kristen back, but she didn't answer. Jaliyah's family, who had just arrived, began to press the police for information. Police confirmed that a body found on the highway was Jaliyah's and that her identification was found with her. Her car was 300 meters away from where her body was found. Jaliyah had been decapitated, and some of her body parts were scattered on the road. Her family could see a white sheet covering some of her remains. They were in shock and trying to understand what had happened to Jaliyah. They had only spoken to her on the phone 20 minutes earlier, so they were confused by how quickly this tragedy had unfolded. A truck driver was driving down the road when he noticed a gruesome scene. Body parts were strewn across the highway. He immediately called 911 at 3:48 a.m. and remained at the scene waiting for police. To prevent other vehicles from driving over the remains, he began blocking oncoming vehicles. The condition of the remains made it impossible to determine the gender of the victim. When police arrived, they secured the area and began questioning the truck driver and other passing motorists, but no one was able to provide information. The drivers said they did not see anything suspicious, nor did they touch the remains for the victim's belongings. There were no cars parked nearby, and the reason the victim abandoned the vehicle remains unclear. Jaliyah was brutally killed. Her head was discovered in the bushes alongside the road. One of her legs was severed below the knee, and her right breast was missing. Fragments of brain were found on the nearby fence posts. The scene was horrifying. Jaliyah was barefoot and completely topless, wearing only torn jeans. Her clothing was neatly arranged on the fence. First her bra, then her shirt, and lastly her jacket. All the items were tattered and stained with blood. It remains a mystery who placed her belongings there. A car was discovered 300 meters from her body, crashed into a fence. Unlike the horrific condition of her body, the car appeared to be relatively intact. It was empty and running, with the doors locked and the headlights on, suggesting the driver had left in a hurry. The front passenger window was open and there were noticeable dents in the car. Blood was found on the license plate, in the trunk on the passenger side, and on the taillights. The police deemed her death suspicious and launched an investigation. Toby kept calling Kristen, who was the last person to see Jaliyah and had been with her before the incident, in hopes of getting an explanation. Kristen mentioned she had witnessed something, but the calls kept getting disconnected. After the police conducted their investigation, the family members visited the scene and took photographs. They found a boot print in the gravel. The following day, the police aimed to interview everyone who had been with Jaliyah that night, including Kristen and her friends, but could not locate Kristen. She also did not answer her phone. When police went to Kristen's house, her father responded, stating that she did not wish to speak to anyone and that they would be hiring a lawyer. 12 hours after Jalia's death, Kristen indeed hired a lawyer. She became the primary focus of the investigation, and her refusal to cooperate shocked Jalia's family. They suspected she was hiding something. Otherwise, she wouldn't be avoiding everyone, ignoring the police and her family, or hiring a lawyer so quickly. They also knew that Kristen was the granddaughter of the sheriff and had a history of altercations at a bar, where she was known for her temper, but her grandfather always covered for her. 3 days later, Kristen met with the police alongside her lawyer. She explained that she arrived home at 7 p.m. to prepare for the party. Afterward, she and her friends drove to Brian's house in Jalia's car, arriving around 10 p.m. The party had several unfamiliar faces, and people were drinking and socializing. Feeling bored, Kristen, Jalia, and 2 male friends went to pick up another friend, Katie, and get some more drinks. The 5 of them then returned to the party and continued drinking. Kristen and Katie's friends tried to stop Jalia from drinking more, but they were unsuccessful. Jalia ended up consuming about 15 shots. Initially, her friends didn't notice how drunk she was. She didn't fall and seemed to walk fine. They went to play pool, leaving Jalia at Brian's house. During the game, they noticed that Jalia was very drunk. The alcohol had taken a toll on her, causing her to act inappropriately. She flirted and danced with Katie's ex-boyfriend, making everyone uncomfortable. As the situation became more tense, Kristen decided it was time to leave. They left the pool hall around 3 a.m. Freddie was driving. Kristen was in the front passenger seat, and Jalia and Katie were in the back. They headed home but did not go inside. While the friends discussed their plans, Jalia was on the phone. After the call, she realized she could not find her bracelet and became upset, blaming Kristen for losing it. Kristen had actually carefully removed the bracelet in the pool hall and put it in her bag, but this only made Jalia angrier. Jalia got out of the car and called her sister to pick her up. Kristen then overheard Jalia calling her sister to change the meeting location. Jalia then moved her car and said she would wait for her sister, assuring everyone that she would stay in the car and not go anywhere. The friends then went to McDonald's. This was the last time they saw Jalia, and what happened to her after that is unknown. The police questioned several friends, including Kristen, who agreed to testify about the night of the incident. However, the police found many inconsistencies in their statements. Katie shared a similar story but added more details. After Jalia was dropped off, she went to Kristen's house. Katie heard Kristen talking on the phone with Toby. After that, they all went home. Katie met her ex-boyfriend Chris, and they spent the night together. The next morning, Katie learned that Jalia had died. She stated that she didn't blame Jalia for flirting with her boyfriend because she was drunk. Chris supported her claim, saying they were together that night, and he mentioned that he foolishly flirted with Jalia, who was bothering him. He noted that she was very drunk and struggling to stand, but he didn't witness any arguments between the girls that night. However, he also mentioned that Katie told him about a fight between Kristen and Jalia after they left the billiard room. Freddie, who drove the girls to the party, is the son of a police officer. He said he arrived at the party before the girls at 11 p.m., but Kristen claimed they were already there at 10 p.m. It's unclear who is telling the truth. They might have just misremembered the time. Freddie mentioned seeing a woman arguing with a white man in the billiard room, but he didn't know him. After the party, Freddie admitted he had been drinking a lot and drove them home. On the way, there was a disagreement about a bracelet. He stated they left Jalia in the car while they went to McDonald's. After that, he took Kristen home and then went to his own place. He was unsure how Jalia ended up on the highway. The police found the friends' testimonies confusing, particularly Freddie's, who insisted they had not given Jaliyah a ride. However, in the last call made when Jaliyah was on the highway, Kristen's voice was heard, suggesting they were together, possibly without Freddie, or that he was too drunk to recall what happened. As time went on without any arrests, many people started to think the police were not conducting an investigation. They dismissed the incident as an accident. Rumors spread throughout the city suggesting that Kristen and Freddie played a role in Jaliyah's death. Many people believe that her death did not appear to be a simple car accident. Her car showed only minor damage. A few dents, a slightly broken windshield, and a shattered front passenger window. However, there was no significant damage to explain how her body ended up 300 meters away from the vehicle. It seemed more plausible that she had exited the car and had been struck by someone. Additionally, it was puzzling why all of her clothes above the waist were removed and neatly hung on a nearby fence. To make matters more confusing, police later discovered a removable hood from Jaliyah's jacket in the bushes behind the fence. How did it get there, and why didn't the police catch it earlier? It was also odd that her body parts were found scattered across 2 lanes of traffic. Due to the extent of her injuries, her body had to be cremated. In 2012, Amber Stafford approached the police to report what she claimed to have seen on the night Jaliyah died. She said she met Jaliyah at a pool hall and observed a fight in the parking lot involving Jaliyah, 2 black men, and a white woman. According to Amber, after the confrontation, Jaliyah drove away while the men followed her in another car. Jaliyah attempted to escape from them, leading to a chase. Ultimately, the other car collided with Jaliyah's vehicle, and Amber witnessed her getting out before the attack occurred. Amber's account appears to contradict that of Jaliyah's friends and sister. Amber was offered a polygraph test but did not pass. During questioning, Amber confessed that she fabricated her story but did not provide a reason for it. As a result, she received a 6-month prison sentence and a $500 fine. In March 2013, the results of Jaliyah's autopsy were finally made public. Toxicology tests revealed no illegal substances, but the alcohol level in her blood was twice the legal limit. The Wood County Sheriff's Department concluded that Jaliyah's death was accidental. After her friends left, the Jaliyah did not wait for her sister, who was about to arrive. Instead, she started the car and drove away. Since she was drunk, she lost control of the vehicle. Traveling at a high speed of about 110 kilometers per hour, her car skidded to the right and crashed into the guardrail. Because she was not wearing a seatbelt, her body was thrown to the right and hit the windshield when the airbag deployed. She was ejected through the right front door window while the car continued to move. As she struck the guardrail pillars, she bounced back towards the car, causing her clothes to fly off. She flipped over the car, hitting the roof and trunk, which had blood on it, before being thrown away from the vehicle. A car may have been driving down the road at night and, in the darkness, failed to notice a body, running over it and dragging the remains across the road, leaving behind many fragments. This scenario seems implausible. Jaliyah's family did not accept it. They believed their daughter's body couldn't have traveled such a distance. Even if she had been struck by the car, she wouldn't have landed on the hood or trunk. The roof showed no dents that would have resulted from a body hitting it at impact. The police also confirmed that there were no blood, hair, or fibers from her clothing on the pieces of the broken passenger door. No glass was found in Jaliyah's hair or head, so her family does not think she collided with broken glass on the door before being thrown out the window. There was no significant damage to the fence that the police reported the car had crashed into. However, this detail doesn't explain how the victim's clothes were neatly hung on the fence. If she had accidentally ended up there, her belongings would have been out of order, with her underwear on top. Instead, the shirt and underwear appeared to be intentionally torn. It's also puzzling why the car doors were locked. Typically, when the airbag deploys in this model, the doors unlock automatically, so someone must have closed them. A member of Jalia's family expressed surprise that physical evidence was left at the scene after the police investigation. Clothing, including underwear, a t-shirt, and a jacket, were still hanging on the fence, and no one had collected them for evidence or conducted DNA testing. In addition, the hood of Jalia's jacket, which had blood on it, was left in the bushes. An earring belonging to Jalia was found 5 meters from her body, also left on the road. Police did not search for fingerprints or DNA on any of this evidence. Jalia's car was towed away by police and parked outside without being properly inspected. Another strange detail was that Jalia's favorite keychain, decorated with J-shaped gemstones, a gift from her sister Toby, was missing. Jalia always wore it on her keychain. It was not found at the scene, and it was later discovered that Kristen had it. Kristen claimed that Jalia had given it to her, but no one believed Kristen. Jalia was very careful with her belongings, especially her jewelry, and even argued with Kristen over a bracelet. It would have been absurd for her to give such an expensive keychain. Toby also recalled that Jalia had asked for her keys in a phone call. Kristen had the keychain attached to the same set of keys. Kristen's attorney eventually returned the keychain to Jalia's family. The individuals in the car that night were never considered suspicious or questioned. Their phones were not collected for testing because Kristen, Katie, and Freddie provided alibis, stating that they were at McDonald's when Jalia died. Surveillance camera footage from McDonald's shows a car similar to Freddie's arriving at 3:32 a.m. Freddie picked up his order at the drive-thru, but it is unclear who else was in the car. McDonald's employees have mentioned that the timestamp on the records does not accurately reflect reality, although it is unclear exactly how much of a discrepancy there is. Since Jalia called Toby while they were on the freeway at 3:33 a.m., and Kristen argued, it is possible that they were still on the freeway at that time. It is also possible that the time Freddie's car was at McDonald's was accurate, and Kristen was not in Freddie's car. Despite this apparent inconsistency, the police did not verify the exact time they arrived at McDonald's and accepted this testimony, removing all suspicion from all three. The family of the Jalia received Shikar and carried out their own inspection. They found a significant amount of blood underneath the car. A car hit her and dragged her along the road, which is why there was blood left under the vehicle. The blood found on the road supports this account. The airbag designed to protect the driver deployed, but the one for her did not activate. There was no DNA from Jalia found, suggesting she did not come into contact with her airbag. It was discovered that the passenger airbag was faulty and did not function in the car. Additionally, a drop of blood belonging to someone else was found, but its source is currently unknown. The family of the Jalia believes she was the victim of a crime that night. They suspect she was struck by the same car, and after the impact, her head hit a fence post, leading to her death. The car injured her severely, resulting in her head and leg being torn apart. Jalia's family is working hard to seek justice for her, but so far, the case is still closed. Hi everyone, thanks for returning. Let's unravel another horrible case. The case of Mia Skadhoj-Stevn. Late at night on February 5, 2022, a group of young people gathered at a bar. It was cold outside, so everyone was dressed warmly. Mia was wearing dark clothes, except for her white sneakers. The group wanted to have a good time and enjoy the weekend with other college students. And she planned to go home in her friend's car. After spending several hours at a party, they moved between nightclubs along the street until they finally reached one club. Mia danced energetically, even with strangers, and couldn't stop. She drank moderately and wanted to keep the fun going. However, as closing time approached around 6 in the morning, it was time to leave. Everyone hurried out, with many heading home much earlier than Mia. Mia had no one to drive her home, and with the money she had, she couldn't afford a taxi. At the party, she met a 22-year-old man from Aalborg. After the club closed, he waited for her outside. He chatted with Mia and her friends for a while before they all decided to go home. Mia planned to take the bus and contact her friends the next day. However, hours had passed since she said goodbye to her friends on the street, and none of her friends and relatives had been able to contact her. Initially, her family assumed that she and her friends were just out enjoying themselves, and that she was probably at a friend's or boyfriend's house. However, when Mia's boyfriend called, he revealed that he hadn't seen Mia all day and that she had ignored his messages. By noon, Mia's mother was in a panic after calling all of Mia's friends and finding out that no one had seen her since she left the club, and that no one could get in touch with her. Mia was usually responsible and kept in touch, so her lack of response was alarming. The situation became increasingly worrying for her family, especially her mother, who was really scared. It was later confirmed that Mia was last seen at 6 a.m. and since then, no one knew where she was. Mia's family decided to report her disappearance to the police. Although the situation involved a party and a girl who had been drinking, the police quickly began a search. Unfortunately, there were no leads for the investigation. Mia's father drove around the area looking for her, while her mother and sister took to social media to ask for help from anyone with information. They shared photos and descriptions of Mia, including what she was wearing. As such cases are rare in Denmark, the local community came together to support the family, actively sharing posts and information to help raise awareness of the case. The police continued their investigation. They tried to gather information, but unfortunately, the information was very limited. They contacted all local residents in the area where Mia went missing, asking for any relevant documents, especially photos and videos from mobile phones that may have recorded Mia at the party. They also reviewed footage from surveillance cameras in nearby stores and establishments. The situation was complicated by the fact that it took place in a crowded area with many clubs and bars, making it difficult to identify any one person. Police interviewed a young man who had met Mia and was one of the last people to interact with her. However, he had a confirmed alibi because he had left the area in a taxi. Witnesses submitted thousands of video files taken at nearby parties. As a result, police received hundreds of hours of video footage that needed to be scrutinized. It was a huge task, and police spent days reviewing the footage. After reviewing the initial videos, police found no suspicious activity and the statements of Mia's friends were verified. Mia did indeed leave the club at around 6 a.m., chatted briefly with friends, and may have headed toward the bus stop. Meanwhile, the investigation has been looking into Mia's background, hoping to find useful clues. Mia was a lively and kind 22-year-old girl when she went missing. Her family described her as intelligent and full of energy. Mia was studying at Aalborg, the largest university in the country, and was close to graduating from the medical faculty. In addition to her studies, she was an aspiring model and had participated in several photo shoots. There was nothing in her background to suggest that a tragedy would occur. She was not involved in any criminal activities, did not use illegal drugs, and had no history of mental illness. Although her friends noticed that Mia was acting strangely, she drank heavily and flirted while dancing with many strangers, attracting attention with her charm. Could this behavior attract a dangerous person who saw Mia as an easy target? It has been more than a day since she went missing. Police are once again appealing to the public, asking anyone with information to come forward to help locate Mia. They are also reviewing footage of the party that continues to come in, which requires significant resources. All young people with whom Mia interacted that evening, including her friends and new acquaintances, have been brought in for questioning. On the same day, police noticed something unusual in a surveillance camera recording. At 6:09 a.m. on February 6th, the Mia approached a bus stop located 300 meters from the club. It seemed that she was waiting for a bus to return home. After a brief exchange with the driver, she chose not to get into a car and continued to wait for the bus, which then drove away. However, the bus did not arrive. Even at 7:35 a.m., an hour and a half later, she was still standing at the bus stop. It was clear that she was at risk of freezing, as she was not dressed appropriately for the weather. She appeared to be losing hope of catching the bus and felt uncertain about what to do next. During this time, a car approached her. The driver slowed down and they talked. Then Mia got in the car. It is likely that the driver did not arouse any suspicion from her. He had gained her trust. The police suspect that he could be someone she knew from a party or could be an unlicensed taxi driver. Officers thoroughly examined all surveillance footage but were unable to determine the license plate number or identify the driver's face due to the poor quality of the footage. It is therefore unclear which vehicle the girl entered. However, it was clear that the driver was the last known person to see Mia alive, making it important to locate and interview him. On February 8th, officers decided to reach out to the public for assistance once again. They hoped that someone who recognized the driver would contact the police. Officers also spoke to Mia's friends again to clarify the timeline of events. Her friends provided a detailed account of that night. After everyone returned home in the morning, a brief conversation in the parking lot at around 6:20 a.m. A friend who accompanied Mia to the bus stop gave a detailed description of her route. This information proved useful. The police were able to discover several additional video cameras that may have captured footage of Mia and the car that stopped to pick her up. This investigation led to important discoveries. It was discovered that the car had an unusual license plate. Additionally, the quality of the footage was high enough that all the markings on the license plate could be clearly seen. This helped them gather information relevant to the case. On February 9, 2022, police tracked down the owner of a 2015 Volkswagen Golf who lived a few streets away from a local club. When they arrived at the address, they discovered that it was the car that had been caught on surveillance cameras. Police investigated and linked the car to two men, childhood friends with previous convictions for minor crimes, including a previous incident where they pretended to be police officers at a football match. Although both men denied knowing anything about Mia's disappearance, the fact that police were given 24-hour access to the car under Danish law suggested that they were involved in the case. The two men were then brought in for a preliminary hearing, which had to take place within 24 hours of their arrest. During the trial, the prosecutor presented his case and the evidence he had gathered. The judge then reviewed this evidence to decide if the detainees should remain in custody or be released. This process ensures that the rights of the accused are protected while also ensuring public safety. If someone is deemed potentially dangerous, it becomes critical to act swiftly. By February 10, 2022, it had already been 4 days since the Mia went missing. No one had provided any information about her location, and there were no ransom demands. With every minute that passed, the chances of finding her alive were slim. A preliminary hearing for the men took place in the county courthouse, but it was closed to the public. During this hearing, it was decided that one of the men would be released. This decision does not mean that he is no longer a suspect in the case. Thomas Thompson, a 30-year-old electrician, then agreed to stay. He agreed to be held for 4 weeks while police thoroughly investigated his background and spoke to some of his acquaintances. Thomas was born on June 18, 1985, and grew up in southeastern Denmark. Later, he moved to a small town in Denmark with a population of about 500 people. Initially, He lived in an apartment before moving to his grandparents' farm. He built a career in the military, advancing to the rank of sergeant. After leaving the military, he trained as an electrician. Thomas was known to be a smart, polite, calm, and pleasant individual. The main reason for Thomas's arrest was that he was the owner of the black Volkswagen. In addition, Thomas failed to provide an alibi. The police began checking the GPS system. When they impounded Thomas's car, they discovered that he had attempted to turn off the GPS about 4 hours before meeting Mia at the bus stop. A specialized digital forensics team, using surveillance camera footage, was able to accurately trace the route of Thomas's car. It all started at Thomas's residence, where he drove around the city several times, picked up a girl, and then traveled through nearby towns with brief stops. Thomas spent several hours at Lysistrata and returned 2 days later. This part of the route seemed particularly suspicious. Police decided to use specially trained dogs to examine the area. The dogs found a hair elastic, pieces of clothing, underwear, and other items scattered nearby. These items were aligned in a straight line, suggesting that the owner might have been running through the forest, fallen, or been attacked, gradually losing her belongings. The dogs led the police deeper into the forest near a local village, where they found areas of disturbed earth. When they dug these spots up, they uncovered human remains that were cut into several pieces. Police discovered 231 pieces of bodies, many of which were scattered around the burial site. The body is likely Mia's, as some of the clothing matches what she was wearing that night. All of the collected evidence was sent to a lab for analysis. Forensic experts quickly confirmed that the remains were Mia's. The medical examiner determined that Mia had died from strangulation, and that an electric saw had been used to dismember her body. Most of the body parts were severely damaged, indicating that they had been stored in a strong alkaline solution for an extended period of time. On the night Mia went missing, Thomas did turn off the GPS in his car at 2:14 a.m. However, due to a technical malfunction, the location continued to be recorded every 15 seconds. When questioned about why he attempted to disable the tracking system, Thomas claimed it was because a police officer had a personal vendetta against him and was following him. Thomas only reactivated the GPS at 9:23 a.m., likely after the Mia had already been killed. The Thomas then took her body to his house, where he began dismembering it. Thomas spoke up and confessed to giving Mia a ride in his car. He explained that he was passing a bus stop and saw Mia, who was not dressed appropriately for the cold weather. Thomas offered to drive her home out of kindness. He said that she had been flirting in the car and seemed comfortable, which prompted him to offer her a ride, which she agreed to. They drove through populated areas before entering a wooded area. Thomas claimed that they decided to have consensual sex there, but at some point Mia had a seizure. He said that she accidentally fell and injured her neck, which led to her death. Thomas's story then began to change with each conversation he had with the police. He would suddenly mention that Mia had gotten out of the car and tried to escape but tripped and fell, resulting in her death. When Mia showed no signs of life, Thomas panicked and felt confused about what to do. However, he did not call emergency services for fear of being charged with murder. Having been in legal trouble before, he was worried that the situation would only get worse. Instead, Thomas decided to take the body to his home in an attempt to conceal it. Initially, he tried to dissolve the body in a chemical solution, but after almost a day, it was clear that it didn't work as he had hoped. Next, he chopped up the remaining pieces, burying most of them while scattering some smaller fragments around the burial area. He attempted to burn his clothes from the day of the murder, the car mat, and the Mia's bag, which might have had bloodstains. In the ashes, police found clothing scraps and a tool that could have been used in a crime. Thomas claimed that his actions were driven by fear and desperation. However, the police had a different perspective, believing that the elaborate methods he used to dispose of the body revealed a level of cruelty that only a disturbed person could exhibit. The police believed that Thomas initially intended to harm the Mia by offering her a ride home. His actions suggested a deliberate plan, especially when he tried to disable the GPS tracking. Thomas's persistence worked against him. It took him 2 attempts to lure the Mia into his car. He waited for an hour and a half, looking for the right moment when the Mia, feeling cold and desperate, would agree to get in. Once Mia entered the vehicle, he threatened her, brandished a weapon, and assaulted her. Afterward, he decided to eliminate her to prevent her from reporting him to the police, resorting to a horrific method to do so. The medical examiner concluded that strangulation was the most likely cause of death. Many of the body parts were never found, possibly because they were hidden. This suggests that there was no voluntary consent to any intimate relationship. The evidence of the assault was clear, suggesting that the murder was the result of Mia's desperate resistance. Although there were indirect signs of rape, it could not be confirmed due to the condition of the body. Thomas remained silent and refused to provide any further details. The prosecutor's office reported that Thomas hunted throughout the night and selected a victim, waiting for the right moment to trap her. Police discovered that Thomas made 3 stops in a wooded area, suggesting he chased her by car, or that she attempted to flee multiple times. But he was able to catch her and pull her back. During a search of Thomas's car, Mia's DNA was found inside. When police searched Thomas's home, Mia's blood was found, confirming his crime. Police analyzed Thomas's behavior. It seemed that while he was trying to dispose of the body, he maintained his normal routine, except for taking a day off from work. On that day, Thomas attacked Mia but also socialized freely with friends, ordering pizza and delivering food, including many sweets. It seemed that Thomas had no remorse. Mia's relatives condemned Thomas's claim that Mia had consensually consented to sex with a stranger, calling it a blatant lie and disrespectful to her. The investigation found that in 2019, he was caught stalking a student, and that similar incidents had occurred in 2015 and 2017 when he peeped into the windows of 2 other girls and behaved inappropriately. One victim said that one night, she heard a knock on her window. When she looked out, she saw a strange man with his pants down, staring blankly at her, oblivious to the pouring rain. Despite being discovered, he appeared satisfied and quickly fled the scene after she alerted her parents. A sketch of him was later created. In 2010, a disturbing incident occurred when 3 women were awakened in their apartment by a noise and found a man inside. He attacked one of them and raped her before fleeing the scene. The police were called, but the attacker was never arrested. There was insufficient evidence and he was not held accountable for his actions. However, the victims were able to come forward as witnesses to help build a case against the criminal. Additionally, Thomas's ex-girlfriend reported on his behavior during their relationship. She said he was arrogant and manipulative, demanding complete compliance and losing his temper even at minor acts of disobedience. She also reported an alarming incident where, after breaking up with Thomas, she discovered that the brake hose on her car had been cut. Thankfully, this did not result in an accident. But she was unable to prove that Thomas was responsible, although she was convinced that he had done it. A third witness discovered a file on Thomas's computer containing a long list of wives along with disturbing content. Several witnesses described Thomas regularly watching videos depicting extreme violence, including murder and sexual assault. Psychiatrists evaluated Thomas and described him as having narcissistic personality traits, identifying Thomas as a sociopath lacking empathy for others. Despite this assessment, he was deemed sane. Despite the overwhelming evidence presented by the prosecution against Thomas, he pleaded not guilty to raping and murdering Mia and showed no remorse. However, Thomas accepted responsibility for improperly disposing of her body and dismembering her. He denied any involvement in the murder, claiming that she had died in an accident, but this explanation was unconvincing. Even if Mia had been seriously injured in the accident, he could have called for help, which would have proven his innocence. Instead, Thomas chose to dismember her body without attempting first aid, despite he knowing the necessary techniques. In June 2023, 38-year-old Thomas Thompson was convicted of murdering Mia Skadhosh-Stephen. He was also convicted of aggravated indecency with a body. The prosecutor asked for a life sentence, while Thomas's attorney argued for a reduced sentence. Ultimately, Thomas was sentenced to life in prison because he was deemed a threat to society. He will be eligible for parole after serving 10 years. Hello, crime enthusiasts, are you ready for another chilling investigation? The case of Jordan Graham. Montana is the largest landlocked state in the United States, known for its stunning views of the Rocky Mountains and beautiful lakes. A major attraction in Montana is Glacier Park, a vibrant tourist destination, particularly during summer. The park features approximately 700 hiking trails for visitors to explore. Cody Johnson was born in San Jose, California. After his parents divorced, his mother, Sherry, raised him on her own. They always share a close. Eventually, Sherry decided to leave California and move to Montana with Cody. He is a kind, cheerful, and humorous person. He enjoys spending time outdoors, participating in activities like fishing and hiking, but his greatest passion is cars. He collected, repaired, and raced them with friends. After graduating, Cody found a job assembling custom cars, which he naturally enjoyed. His boss was his close friend Cameron, and Cody's career was thriving. However, he dreamed of settling down, meeting someone, and starting a family to fully establish himself in Montana. Cody's bachelor life was about to change. In 2011, he met and started dating Jordan Graham, a 21 years old. She was shy and reserved, only opening up when she felt comfortable. Jordan shared Cody's love for nature and travel. They spent a lot of time hiking together in beautiful Montana locations, especially enjoying visits to Glacier Park. Jordan loved children and often babysat for her friends, expressing her dream of having her own child. She came from a religious family with strict rules, including a ban on sex before marriage. Cody told friends that he really liked Jordan, and he began attending church with her friends and family. He shared that their relationship was growing stronger, and he was so in love that he told his mother he had found the person he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. In December 2012, Cody announced his engagement to Jordan on social media. Friends were thrilled about the engagement. 6 months later, on June 29, 2013, Cody and Jordan got married in an outdoor ceremony. They appeared to be the happiest and most perfect couple. They received many congratulatory speeches, making the event truly wonderful for them. After the long and significant day, they moved into their first home. Instead of going on a honeymoon, they decided to spend their free time working on the house. Cody took a week off from work and was expected to return on July 8, 2013. On Sunday, July 7th, Cody had plans to go kayaking with his father-in-law, Stephen. However, he later contacted Stephen to cancel, mentioning that Jordan had a surprise for him. He and Jordan attended an afternoon church service and then went for a walk by the lake. After the walk, Cody did not return to work, which was unusual for him. His boss, Cameron, became worried and decided to visit his home. Finding no one there and no signs of a break-in, Cameron checked the garage for Cody's car and found his phone, which he usually kept with him. Cameron then reported Cody missing to the police. The detectives first needed a statement from Cody's wife, Jordan. She explained that on their way back from Dairy Queen, Cody received a call and talked for about 30 minutes. She didn't know who called, but Cody appeared clearly agitated by the end of the conversation. When they arrived at Jordan's house, she realized her phone was low on battery and she had left her charger at work. She got back in her car and went to work, leaving Cody in the garage. Later, she received a text from Cody saying he was going for a ride with someone. When she returned home after work, she found her husband was not home. He had gone out in a dark-colored car with Washington state plates. This is nothing unusual, because Cody loved cars and often went to races with new friends, sometimes late at night. She did not report him missing for fear that if he returned, he would realize she had overreacted. Cody and Jordan's group of friends quickly set out to access Cody's social media accounts, hoping to find information about his whereabouts. They obtained a call log and learned that he received a call from a Washington number around the time Jordan mentioned. Since Jordan recalled seeing a car with Washington plates, this was already a lead. The police traced the plate to a man named Jose. Upon questioning, Jose explained that he had called Cody about some tools he had borrowed. The conversation was ordinary, and Jose couldn't recall anything significant related to Cody at that time. Jose is no longer a suspect because he has an alibi, although the police found it odd due to the Washington plates on the car. It's been 3 days since Cody was last seen and police still have no more leads. The search for him intensified. Everyone joined the search day and night. Volunteers joined in, and his family and friends did everything they to find him. They visited the police station to answer various questions, but the responses often didn't align. Jordan was mistaken in her testimony when talking about her time and actions. Jordan explained that Cody left without telling her where he was going or who he was with. Then, she suddenly mentioned receiving a message from he, saying he needed to go for a ride with friends. She also noted that whenever Cody's friends visited, he always took them to Glacier Park for a trip. The investigator highlighted that her story about her husband's disappearance differed from the police's information and urged her to be completely honest. One day, Jordan and her mother went to the police station and showed them an email she had received that morning from a stranger named Tony. The email briefly stated that Tony wanted Jordan to know that there was no need to look for Cody anymore because he was gone. They should stop looking. The email also mentioned that he had gone hiking with friends that night and had fallen off a cliff. Everyone was shocked and assumed that he was dead. It was discovered that Jordan knew Tony. He was a co-worker of Cody's. The police tracked down Tony and asked him to testify. Tony explained that he hadn't seen Cody for some time and hadn't been in contact because Cody was busy preparing for his wedding. He had not used his email recently. He provided all of his phone and computer data to the investigation, and the police concluded that Tony was not involved. Using the details from the email, Jordan organized his own search group and ventured into the rugged and winding terrain. Due to the park's vast size, everyone was aware that the search might drag on for weeks. The following day, the search continued. Jordan led the team in a specific direction, as if she was on a mission to reach a particular location. They drove through many roads and cliffs, any of which could have been Cody's path. Jordan told her friends she wanted to find a certain place Cody had dreamed of visiting. Jordan suddenly stopped the car and jumped out near the loop trail. Next to the trail was a steep slope filled with rocks and tree roots, appearing very dangerous. Undeterred, Jordan climbed over the fence and made her way to the edge. She looked down and shouted to the others that she saw someone at the bottom of the ravine. She claimed it was Cody and called the others over. The search party contacted the park rangers, but since it was already getting dark and too risky to descend, the search was postponed until morning. At 8 a.m. on July 12th, the search for Cody came to a tragic end. Rescuers used ropes tied to trees to descend. Then, they discovered a blue sneaker, identical to the one Cody wore on the day he disappeared. At the bottom, they found Cody face down in the shallow water near the waterfall. Beside him lay a small piece of black cloth, and he was missing his wedding ring. As news spread, friends and family wondered why Cody was at that location at night. Cody's friend, Eddie, mentioned that while Cody enjoyed sightseeing and long walks, he never ventured off the trail, especially in the dark, and was afraid of heights. Cody always hikes on safely fenced trails in lower areas. He once confided to a friend that his fear of heights was so severe that he couldn't even climb a ladder to change a light bulb at his mother's house. Shortly after Cody was found, Jordan posted a wedding photo on Instagram. She said she missed Cody very much, saying that not a day went by without her thinking about him. He was in her heart forever and that she knew he was in a better place now, watching over her as her angel. She said she loved him with all her heart and soul, and hoped to see him again one day. 2 weeks later, the police were still searching for answers about the mysterious email. During the investigation, Cody was buried. At his funeral, Jordan spent the entire time staring at her phone, showing no emotion. Maybe this is how she gets over her pain, but her friend, Kimberly, who witnessed the wedding, thought the behavior was too strange. Kimberly went to the police station to provide information for the investigation. She told the officer that she had been receiving messages from Jordan a few weeks before and following Cody and Jordan's wedding. She recounted conversations with Jordan before the wedding, mentioning that Jordan seemed more excited about the wedding itself than about Cody's feelings. It seemed that Jordan enjoyed the prospect of being a bride more than the reality of being a wife. Friends noticed that Cody seemed more in love with Jordan than she was with him. Kimberly recalled Jordan questioning whether marrying Cody was the right choice. Jordan was very anxious about the wedding night and wondered if she was making a mistake by getting married. The night after the wedding, Jordan messaged she, expressed uncertainty about everything that happened on the wedding night, and mentioned that a lot had happened. When she wanted to hear more details about what happened, Jordan insisted that it was a conversation best had in person rather than over the phone. During several days of texting, Jordan shared with Kimberly that she had told Cody she was on her period to avoid having sex. But they were supposed to discuss it today. Jordan later mentioned that if her husband forced her to do something, she might have a mental breakdown. On the evening of July 7th, after having dinner with friends, Kimberly received another message from Jordan. In it, Jordan said stating that she wanted to talk to Cody about her true feelings. Kimberly wished them understanding and resolution. Later, at 9 p.m., Jordan appeared at Kimberly's door, saying the conversation hadn't gone well. Cody had gotten angry, and she had left to see her brother. From all this, it seems that from the very beginning, Jordan knew where to find Cody. Her testimony about him wanting to go to Glacier Park that day, and her silence about his disappearance seemed suspicious. Kimberly had a gut feeling that Jordan was involved in Cody's death. Detectives were already skeptical of Jordan's story, given the numerous inconsistencies in her account. Their suspicions grew when Kimberly provided evidence in the form of text messages. Then, the police discovered the IP address of the email, which revealed that it was created and sent from Jordan's father's house. This contradicted Jordan's claim that Cody had left that night and they spent it apart. Recordings of phone conversations revealed that Jordan was lying, as both phones and their owners were in Glacier Park at 9:15 p.m. Using this time frame, police obtained CCTV footage from the park's entrance, which showed Cody's car and both Cody and Jordan inside. Jordan was then asked to come to the police station and tell the truth about what happened that night. During questioning, Jordan was forced to recount what happened on the day of the incident. She revealed that she had opened up to Cody about her feelings, which led to a heated argument. Cody suggested that if she truly felt this way, they should consider annulling their marriage. However, Jordan was hesitant, fearing the potential damage to her reputation that would come with getting divorced just 8 days after their wedding. Then, they got into their car and drove to a national park, and they continued their argument. At one point, Jordan mentioned something about a blindfold. As they walked across a bridge and climbed over a fence, their argument escalated. Jordan suggested that they should wait a bit before getting married, but Cody disagreed. They continued to argue. Eventually, Cody tried to grab she. However, she said the incident that followed was a result of anger. Despite her assertion that it was an accident, but the policeman did not believe it. Instead of running for help, Jordan attempted to forge an email on her father's computer. The question remains as to why Cody the need to climb over the edge of the cliff, especially if he was afraid of heights. Even for those who aren't afraid of heights, climbing a 300-foot cliff in the dark and blindfolded is a huge challenge. According to recent information, Jordan was charged with the murder of Cody Johnson just 8 days after their wedding. She will be released, but placed under house arrest and must undergo a psychiatric evaluation. Friends of Cody believe that everything is progressing well and that justice will soon be served. Jordan was initially arrested and charged with second-degree murder and perjury. But these charges were later increased. The prosecutor's office first charged Jordan with second-degree murder for allegedly pushing her husband, Cody, off a cliff in Glacier National Park. However, her charges were later upgraded to first-degree murder. Some of Jordan's friends, who have known her since childhood, mentioned that she was crying hysterically before reaching the altar and seemed to have no joy about getting married. Many people noticed her strange behavior, observing that she acted as if nothing had happened, showing no emotion. When Jordan's trial began, her defense team argued for a second-degree murder conviction, claiming it was an accident during a heated argument. However, the prosecution insisted it was more than an accident. Evidence suggested that Jordan told Cody she had a surprise for him, and a bandage-like item was found near the body, indicating a deliberate act. Additionally, phone calls, text messages, a fake email, her failure to notify anyone of her husband's disappearance, and her lack of emotion after the incident strengthened the prosecution's case, suggesting that Jordan may have planned the murder and intended to blame someone else. On the second day of the hearing, prosecutors gathered evidence that undermined Jordan's defense strategy. During the trial, a video of the police interrogations was shown, revealing to the jury how she lied to the police sergeant. She also deceived her own sixth brother, who testified that during the search, he cried and begged her to tell the truth, but she lied again. On December 13, 2013, just 4 days after the trial began, Jordan's defense announced that she entered the courthouse as a free woman and left in handcuffs. She surprised everyone by changing her plea to second-degree murder. Jordan stood before the judge and admitted the truth about what happened in Glacier National Park. She said at the time she wasn't considering the consequences and recklessly pushed Cody. When she pleaded guilty, Cody's mother began to cry. Contrary, her parents remained silent throughout the trial and left the courthouse quietly at the end, leaving their daughter in the custody of the U.S. Marshals. As a result of her guilty plea, Jordan Graham was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole. In exchange, prosecutors dropped the first-degree murder charge and 1 count of perjury. Jordan filed an appeal to withdraw her guilty plea on March 26, 2014, but the appeal was denied. After everything ended, Cody's friends tried to make sense of what truly happened. They insisted that, despite any anger or frustration Cody felt towards Jordan, but he loved her. He would be willing to end the marriage if it would make Jordan happy. No one could figure out why Jordan killed her husband. She came from a religious family with strict rules, and perhaps in her youth, she made some mistakes and feared confessing to her husband. Alternatively, due to her parental upbringing, she may not be ready for a marital relationship, leading to psychological trauma and shyness towards men.